Chapter 1361. You search yours, I search mine. Soul attacks deal little damage, but are extremely insulting. The yellow sand yaksha unhesitatingly changed direction and charged towards Lin Mo. That powerful, violent aura locked onto him again, and Lin Mo began to retreat rapidly. The black sand god king in the distance visibly breathed a sigh of relief, quickly following, ready to act at any time. The first cooperation is always the most difficult. As long as they get through it smoothly, it will definitely become smoother and more tacit in the future. Lin Mo knew why little Mingwang Bodhisattva had requested two-person teams. Facing a boss monster like the yellow sand yaksha in Yellow Sand Lake, it would be impossible to hold it back alone. They could only use the current clever method to drag it down. But this method couldn't be used for too long. The attacks would become stronger each time, eventually reaching the limit, so an hour was a reasonable time. A dozen seconds later, the yellow sand yaksha approached Lin Mo again, and the black sand god king acted in time. His attack was a bit stronger than before, successfully attracting the yellow sand yaksha's attention again. The two were like flying kites, pulling the yellow sand yaksha back and forth, playing a game of extreme kite flying. Time passed little by little, and in the extreme kite flying, an hour passed. The two rushed out of the lake without hesitation, and the yellow sand yaksha chased after them. It firmly locked onto Lin Mo, its huge eyes filled with hatred. Lin Mo was a little helpless. Who told him that the intensity of the soul attack was too high? Later on, the black sand god king often had to attack 2 or 3 times to get the yellow sand yaksha to switch its attention. Lin Mo rushed out of the lake, stirring up a 100-meter high water column. Splash! After him, the yellow sand yaksha also rushed out with its huge body. It clenched its spear and launched an attack on Lin Mo in midair. The huge phantom of the spear rushed out, as if to tear him to shreds. Lin Mo felt his soul being locked on, and with a thought, the wings of the undead appeared on his back. The wings of the undead shook, cutting off the soul lock. Then, the light speed lich also appeared on his shoulder. Lin Mo's body turned into light, instantly traveling tens of thousands of miles, landing on the shore of the lake. The soul lock failed, the yellow sand yaksha's attack missed, and with an angry roar, it fell back into the lake. The lake water rippled wildly, stirring up layers of ripples, and it took a long time to return to calm. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva's slightly approving voice rang out, "Fellow Taoist Lin has good methods." With his strength, he could naturally see what Lin Mo had just done. Cutting off the soul lock wasn't something anyone could do. In particular, the little divine lord's soul lock was incredibly difficult to sever, yet Lin Moyu had done it with ease. This also meant that if he were to place a soul lock on Lin Moyu, it would likewise be severed. Lin Moyu's position in the eyes of the little bright king Bodhisattva rose another level involuntarily. Lin Moyu sat down on the spot, not saying a word. He looked as if he had just experienced life and death, still somewhat shaken. In reality, Lin Moyu felt no fluctuations whatsoever. All his expressions were what he wanted others to see. Since the start of his class change, he had experienced countless battles along the way, seeing too much of life and death. Many people in the great world were ascetic cultivators, comprehending laws, which in his view was like flowers in a greenhouse. As for him, he hadn't had many days of true ascetic cultivation, and had mostly grown through battles. The situation just now was just child's play for Lin Moyu. However, Lin Moyu put on a look of being frightened out of his wits and narrowly escaping death, while also demonstrating his ability to sever soul locks. Firstly, it was to tell the little bright king Bodhisattva that he had this ability and should not be underestimated. Secondly, it was also to tell the little bright king Bodhisattva that his combat power was limited and he was no match for the yellow sand yaksha, so there was no need to be too wary of him. He shouldn't be underestimated, nor should he be overly feared. This was the effect Lin Moyu wanted, and it was clear that he had achieved it. Lin Moyu's soul was incredibly sensitive, far more so than the others present. He could sense the changes in their expressions. He once again controlled the skeleton divine warriors with his consciousness. In the past hour, the 100 skeleton divine warriors had already searched a large area, but found nothing. They were still expanding their range and continuing their search. The central lake was vast, large enough to hold several stars, and could not be searched completely in a short period of time. Lin Moyu wasn't in a hurry. As long as the passage truly existed, he would find it sooner or later. An hour later, it was once again Lin Moyu and the Black Sand God King's turn to search. while the little bright king Bodhisattva and the erosion earth god king would attract the yellow sand yaksha's attention. While searching, Lin Moyu once again deployed 100 skeleton divine warriors. Time passed bit by bit, and the four took turns, constantly searching the central lake. 3 days later, Lin Moyu had searched areas 1 through 8, but found nothing. The little bright king Bodhisattva and the erosion earth god king had also searched areas 20 through 27, with the same lack of findings. During the most recent search, the erosion earth god king was injured due to a mistake. The search had to be suspended, waiting for the erosion earth god king's injuries to heal before continuing. In those 3 days, Lin Moyu had understood that the weakest of the four was the erosion earth god king. Although it had its own unique secret techniques, it was weaker than Jin Wei when not using them. The strongest of the four was naturally the little bright king Bodhisattva. Especially during the time the erosion earth god king was injured, the little bright king Bodhisattva demonstrated his combat power. He held off the yellow sand yaksha for more than 10 minutes, allowing the erosion earth god king to escape safely. The four were still sitting quietly on the yellow sand land, separated by a distance. There was no day or night on the yellow sand land, and the fireball in the sky always existed. Lin Moyu wasn't idle. He manipulated the skeleton divine warriors to search the lake bottom day and night, looking for the passage. There were now 2,000 skeleton divine warriors under the lake. They didn't need to rest, nor would they attract attacks from monsters, proceeding smoothly and with extraordinary efficiency. In these 3 days, they had searched areas 70 through 90, and were now advancing towards areas with higher numbers. The higher the number, the closer they were to the core. The yellow sand yaksha was near the core, and Lin Moyu wasn't sure if the skeleton divine warriors would attract its attack. Boss-level monsters were different from ordinary monsters, so it was hard to say. However, Lin Moyu felt that since they hadn't been attacked for 3 days, there was a high chance that they wouldn't encounter an attack. Sure enough, one of the skeleton divine warriors sent back information that it had seen the yellow sand yaksha. The yellow sand yaksha dragged its huge body and swam over the skeleton divine warrior's head, completely ignoring its existence. With this, Lin Moyu was greatly relieved and immediately ordered 100 skeleton divine warriors to head to the core area. The other skeleton divine warriors continued to search according to their original routes. Because he had been to the bottom of the yellow sand lake once, Lin Moyu had guessed from the beginning that the real passage might be in the core area. Previously, because they had to attract the yellow sand yaksha's attention every hour, the skeleton divine warriors might be discovered by the little bright king Bodhisattva if they went directly to the core area. Now, taking advantage of the erosion earth god king's recuperation, Lin Moyu had the skeleton divine warriors quickly rush to the core area. The erosion earth god king's injuries were not light, and it would take at least 3 days to recover. 3 days was enough to search the core area thoroughly. Chapter 1362. Good news and bad news, which do you want to hear first? Lin Moyu's first impression of the core area was that the concentration of laws here was astonishing. Pure earth and stone laws, and a small amount of earth laws, became the masters here. The dense laws gathered together, almost to the point of being clearly visible. It even gave Lin Moyu the illusion that even the lake water was formed by the manifestation of laws. The skeleton divine warriors quickly moved through the core area, searching for clues. Soon, the skeletons made a discovery, and Lin Moyu connected to their vision. In the gray and white world, Lin Moyu saw the Great Formation again. In an area in the center of the lake, the yellow sand disappeared, and the earth became as solid as gold. The formation was complex, profound, and obscure. The entire formation was extremely restrained, not emitting any power outwards. Lin Moyu had seen the same formation at the bottom of the yellow sand lake, and there was no difference between the two. Just as he discovered the formation, it happened to start operating. Countless yellow sands surged from the bottom of the lake, gathering with the water flow, forming a crystal core in the center of the formation. Lin Moyu had seen this scene before. After the crystal core was condensed, the next step should be to condense the body. Finally, the soul fire would be ignited, turning into a monster with a dog's head and a fish's body. In fact, this was indeed the case. More yellow sand gathered, and the laws in the yellow sand gushed out, using the power of the formation to prepare to condense the monster's body. At this moment, a stream of intense water shot out, turning into a water arrow and hitting the formation, hitting the crystal core directly. The crystal core was blasted away by the intense water flow, flying to the side. The yellow sand yaksha rushed over, dragging its huge body, its lion's head opening its huge mouth, swallowing the crystal core in one gulp. After swallowing the crystal core, the yellow sand yaksha showed an extremely enjoyable expression, as if it had eaten an extremely rare delicacy. But the enjoyment lasted for only 2 seconds, and the formation suddenly bloomed with even more intense light. Many runes that had not been lit up before lit up at this moment. A whip formed by the gathering of laws appeared out of thin air, lashing out at the yellow sand yaksha like lightning. The yellow sand yaksha let out a strange cry, not daring to confront the whip at all, and turned to flee. But the whip still struck it, shattering its scales and tearing its skin. After one whip, the yellow sand yaksha had already gone far away, and the formation returned to calm again. Seeing this scene, Lin Moyu had to say, people die for wealth, and birds die for food. No one had expected that the formation could not only create rank 9 God King monsters but also attack. Even more unexpectedly, the yellow sand yaksha would come to snatch the crystal core to eat, even at the cost of being injured. Lin Moyu left 2 skeleton divine warriors beside the formation, and the rest of the skeleton divine warriors continued to search in the core area. Soon, one formation after another was discovered. In the core area, there were a total of 7 formations. 6 of the formations were exactly the same as those seen at the bottom of the yellow sand lake, and were used to create monsters. The other formation seemed a bit special. It was not large in scale, but in the center of the formation, there was a circular depression, seemingly for placing something. The runes carved on this small formation were incredibly complex. Lin Moyu only looked at it for a while and felt dizzy. Lin Moyu dared not look at it again, but instead focused his attention on the circular depression. After a moment, he already knew what should be placed here. What a terrible result, Lin Moyu sighed in his heart. If his guess was correct, this circular depression should be where the crystal nucleus is placed. Not the crystal nucleus of ordinary monsters, but the crystal nucleus of the yellow sand yaksha. Lin Moyu felt that his judgment was most likely correct. For the current situation, this was the worst outcome. It seems that if you want to enter the nether swamp, you must kill the yellow sand yaksha. But there are countless monsters here, and the yellow sand yaksha is so powerful, how can we kill it? Lin Moyu fell into thought, constantly summarizing the information he had obtained. First of all, it is certain that one can enter the nether swamp. Someone has entered it before. Then the yellow sand yaksha can definitely be killed, but you have to find the right method. If there are many people, they can solve it with brute force. But now there are few people, and if the method is wrong, then there is really no hope. Originally, Lin Moyu had an idea that if he found the passage, he would sneak in by himself. But now it seems that this method is not feasible. Little Mingwang is the strongest of the 4. If he wants to kill the yellow sand yaksha, he must contribute. Of course, Lin Moyu can also use his life-saving trump card, which has a high probability of killing the yellow sand yaksha. Lin Moyu would naturally not choose to do that. The life-saving trump card is not worth using on it. After synthesizing all the information, Lin Moyu gradually gained some understanding. When the formation condensed the crystal nucleus before, the yellow sand yaksha came to snatch it. At that time, the yellow sand yaksha's expression was a bit greedy, eager, and even a bit determined. After devouring the crystal nucleus, it was very enjoyable, and it didn't care about being attacked by the formation. It can be said that the crystal nucleus has a huge attraction to it. Devouring the crystal nucleus will be attacked by the formation. In fact, all the crystal nuclei are condensed by the formation, so as long as you devour the crystal nucleus, you will be attacked. It's just not clear, when the crystal nucleus becomes a monster, and then the monster is killed to obtain the crystal nucleus, and then the yellow sand yaksha devours it, will it still trigger the formation attack? Lin Moyu felt that he had found a way to deal with the yellow sand yaksha. At this moment, the voice of little Mingwang Bodhisattva came from his ear. Fellow Taoist Lin, fellow Taoist Shi Tu's injury has healed, we can continue. Lin Moyu opened his eyes revealing a bright light. How many days have passed? Little Mingwang Bodhisattva said in a low voice, it's been 4 days. Lin Moyu hummed, I think we don't need to continue. Huh, little Mingwang Bodhisattva was slightly startled. Fellow Taoist Lin intends to give up. There was no joy or sorrow in his tone, but there was a faint hint of unkindness. Lin Moyu shook his head, it's not giving up, but I may have found a way to enter the nether swamp. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva was suddenly shocked, really? Lin Moyu nodded. There were some discoveries before, plus these few days of contemplation, it should be correct. I have two news here, one good news and one bad news. Which one does little Buddha want to hear first? Little Mingwang Bodhisattva declared the Buddha's name. Good, please tell me directly, fellow Taoist Lin. Seeing that he didn't choose anything, Lin Moyu wasn't surprised. The bad news is that if you want to enter the Nether Swamp, you must kill the yellow sand yaksha. As soon as these words came out, everyone's faces changed drastically. The yellow sand yaksha is difficult to kill, and it may take a great price to kill it. This is really bad news. Lin Moyu continued, the good news is that I have found a way to deal with the yellow sand yaksha. Although it may not be right, you can try it. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva asked eagerly, how to try? Lin Moyu said, I need crystal nuclei, that is, the crystal nuclei of the dog-headed fish-bodied monsters in the lake. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva said in a low voice, no problem. After saying that, he put away the death branch and jumped directly into the lake. The next second, the lake exploded, and a monster was blown into the sky. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva rushed out of the water and threw out the Buddhist beads. The Buddhist beads turned into a large knife, and slashed down from the air with bursts of Buddhist sounds. The monster was beheaded on the spot, and a round crystal nucleus fell out of it. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva waved his hand, and the crystal nucleus immediately flew to Lin Moyu. And he seemed to be afraid that one crystal nucleus was not enough, so he killed into the lake again. Chapter 1363 What I say is not as good as what you see. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva showed his powerful combat power, killing 7 in and 7 out of the lake. In just over 5 minutes, he killed 6 monsters and obtained 6 crystal nuclei. If the yellow sand yaksha hadn't appeared in the end, he could have killed more. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva and the yellow sand yaksha exchanged blows, and used the force to return to the shore. The yellow sand yaksha floated in the lake, making an ear-piercing roar, and it took a long time before it re-entered the lake. At this time, Little Mingwang Bodhisattva's breath was fluctuating. He went all out in the short 5 minutes just now, and now he looks a little unsustainable. Lin Moyu glanced at him, feeling that Little Mingwang Bodhisattva had indeed done his best, but he had not reached the point of desperation. Half of the current appearance is pretending. As a dignified little god, even if he risked his life, it would be impossible to exhaust his strength in 5 minutes. Saying that you fought for a day or two is about the same. You have to pretend to be real. Lin Moyu was a little disdainful in his heart. The Buddhist clan is too bad at acting. The hypocrisy can be seen through at a glance, it's really bad. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva adjusted his breath and asked, is it enough? Lin Moyu hummed, it should be enough, I'll try it. Saying that, he picked up a crystal nucleus and threw it hard. The crystal nucleus flew out like a shooting star and disappeared into sight in an instant. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva looked at Lin Moyu's behavior without saying a word. He didn't doubt Lin Moyu's meaning, but he couldn't understand what Lin Moyu was doing. However, Lin Moyu obviously had no intention of explaining, and the scene fell into a strange silence. The crystal nucleus flew out for thousands of kilometers before falling into the lake, which is very close to the core area. The skeleton god general was already waiting there. As soon as the crystal nucleus entered the water, it was caught, and then quickly sneaked towards the nearest formation. The skeleton god warrior rushed towards the formation at the fastest speed. Soon the formation came into view. At this time, the water flow on one side began to stir, and the yellow sand yaksha came. It seems that the entire central lake is its territory, and it can't hide any movement from it. The yellow sand yaksha rushed over at an alarming speed, like a cat smelling fish. Its speed was too fast, and the skeleton god warrior didn't have time to get close to the formation. At this time, the skeleton god warrior tried his best to throw the crystal nucleus towards the formation. The yellow sand yaksha immediately changed direction. It didn't care about the skeleton god warrior at all. What it wanted was the crystal nucleus. When Lin Moyu saw the yellow sand yaksha rushing towards the crystal nucleus, Lin Moyu knew that his judgment was correct. The crystal nucleus has infinite attraction to the yellow sand yaksha, which can make it spare no expense. For some reason, the yellow sand yaksha cannot directly obtain the crystal nucleus by eating those fish-headed dog-bodied monsters, but can only obtain it when the formation has just gathered into a crystal nucleus. Once the crystal nucleus continues to take shape and becomes a monster, it is useless. But if the fish-headed dog-bodied monster is beheaded by others and becomes a crystal nucleus again, then it can devour it again. Then comes the next judgment. If it is successful, then the method to deal with the yellow sand yaksha has really been found. The crystal nucleus sank rapidly, approaching the formation. When it was still 10,000 meters away from the formation, the yellow sand yaksha finally arrived and swallowed the crystal nucleus in one gulp. At this time, the formation suddenly lit up, and a phantom whip lashed over, hitting the yellow sand yaksha hard, whipping the yellow sand yaksha to pieces. The yellow sand yaksha didn't care, it was satisfied, and swam away quickly, not even caring about the skeleton god warrior. Seeing this scene, Lin Moyu's heart rose slightly, and he finally let out a long breath. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva immediately asked when he saw this, "How is it?" His tone was urgent, as if entering the nether marsh was very important to him. In the next moment, little Bright King Bodhisattva realized that he seemed to have lost his composure and asked in a deep voice, "Is it useful?" Lin Moyu acted as if he hadn't noticed his strange behavior and nodded, "It's useful, just as I thought." Little Bright King Bodhisattva said, "What exactly is going on?" Lin Moyu said, "Before, when I entered the bottom of the lake, I saw a formation. I had seen this formation in the human race's records before, and I can roughly determine its function." Lin Moyu attributed all the information he obtained from the skeleton god warrior to the human race's database. The human race has a very long history in the Great World, even longer than the Buddha and Sand races. There was no problem with Lin Moyu saying that he had seen similar formations in the human race. Even if they didn't believe it, there was no way to verify it. Then Lin Moyu roughly explained the matter of the crystal core in the whip. Little Bright King Bodhisattva said, "So, as long as we obtain enough crystal cores and then attract the yellow sand night Rakshasa near the formation, the yellow sand night Rakshasa will devour the crystal core, and the formation will attack the yellow sand night Rakshasa. When the yellow sand night Rakshasa is severely injured, we will take action to kill it." Lin Moyu nodded and said, "That's right. If the records in the human race are correct, these formations are a set. At the center of the lake bottom, there should be another formation. That formation needs to be activated with a crystal core, which should be the yellow sand night Rakshasa's crystal core." Lin Moyu's words were half true and half false, at least little Bright King Bodhisattva and the others couldn't find any fault with them. The only problem now is that Lin Moyu said that the formation at the center of the lake bottom needs the yellow sand night Rakshasa's crystal core to activate it. This was his speculation, not a complete certainty. Lin Moyu was actually already certain, but he couldn't say it directly. Little Bright King Bodhisattva pondered for a few breaths, "Fellow Taoist Lin, fellow Taoist Black Sand, please trouble you to hold back the yellow sand night Rakshasa for a moment. This monk wants to see it with his own eyes." He decided to see it with his own eyes, otherwise he couldn't be sure. Lin Moyu nodded, "I have no problem, I wonder what God King Black Sand thinks." God King Black Sand also said in a low voice, "I can." The two jumped into the lake together, separated by thousands of miles, waiting for the yellow sand night Rakshasa to come. Little Bright King Bodhisattva's reaction was actually within Lin Moyu's calculations. When he said that there was a formation at the bottom of the lake, Little Bright King Bodhisattva didn't show any surprise. But God King Black Sand and God King Erosion Earth had varying degrees of shock. This shows that Little Bright King Bodhisattva already knew about the existence of the formation, but he had never mentioned it. Whether he saw the formation from other yellow sand lake bottoms or at the central lake bottom, it shows that he was hiding something. Perhaps he was hiding more than just this. Lin Moyu deeply suspected that he was so eager to enter the nether marsh because he had an ulterior motive. What exactly was in the nether marsh that was so important to him? The yellow sand night Rakshasa rushed over quickly, and the two cooperated tacitly to fly the kite again. With the experience of previous times, the cooperation between the two is now enough to be described as tacit understanding. After they attracted the attention of the yellow sand night Rakshasa, Little Bright King Bodhisattva also jumped into the lake and swam rapidly towards the center of the lake. Nearly an hour passed, and Little Bright King Bodhisattva returned again. At this time, Lin Moyu and God King Black Sand also reached their limit and quickly left the lake and returned to the shore. Little Bright King Bodhisattva's eyes were filled with excitement. "Fellow Taoist Lin is indeed right, there is indeed a formation in the central area. This monk has observed the core of the formation, and it does need a crystal core to fill it." The implication was that the crystal core for filling the formation must be the yellow sand night Rakshasa's crystal core. This was the effect that Lin Moyu wanted. Little Bright King Bodhisattva personally saw the result of his own speculation, which was much more useful than if he had said it himself. Next, the group began to discuss how to obtain enough crystal cores. Chapter 1364. This monk will try his best to kill it. The way to obtain crystal cores was very simple, which was to kill the dog-headed fish-bodied monsters. There was no other way. The main focus of the discussion was how to kill and how many to kill. Lin Moyu had the most say in this. Only he had seen how powerful the whip of the formation was and how much damage it could do to the yellow sand knight Rakshasa. In his observation, the whip of the formation was unavoidable, with a kind of soul-locking ability. As long as the formation was activated and the whip took shape, the yellow sand knight Rakshasa would inevitably be attacked. The whip was enough to break the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's defense and beat it until it was bruised and bloody. It looked powerful, but in fact, Lin Moyu also knew that it was just a superficial wound. If they really wanted to injure the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's foundation with the whip, they would need thousands upon thousands of whips. However, it was not realistic to hunt thousands upon thousands of fish-bodied dog-headed monsters in the lake. These monsters were not weak ants, and each one was at the 9th rank of God King. It would be good if Little Bright King Bodhisattva could kill a few in a short time with all his strength, and then he would have to deal with the yellow sand knight Rakshasa who might come at any time. Although they found a method, they found that this method seemed not easy to implement. A look of embarrassment appeared on the faces of the few people. Lin Moyu's eyes swept over the few people. I think, although the formation can injure the yellow sand knight Rakshasa, we cannot completely rely on the formation. We should regard the formation as an auxiliary, using the formation to break the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's defense and disrupt its attack rhythm, creating opportunities for us to kill it. Lin Moyu's words made the eyes of the few people light up, and they realized that they had fallen into a thinking misunderstanding. Little Bright King Bodhisattva immediately said loudly, "Fellow Taoist Lin is right, we should not completely rely on the formation. The whip of the formation is just an auxiliary, we need to rely more on our own strength." Lin Moyu continued, "I want to know, do any of the God Kings have any trump cards that can cause fatal damage to the yellow sand knight Rakshasa in a short time?" Lin Moyu considered the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's defense and recovery ability. Judging from the previous fight with the yellow sand knight Rakshasa and the attack of the formation, the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's defense was extremely strong. To kill it, they had to break its defense first. Secondly, the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's recovery ability was also amazing. Continuous damage effects were not good, and it needed to be killed in a short time. The meaning of Lin Moyu's words was understood by everyone. After a few seconds, God King Erosion Earth, who had not spoken, actually spoke first. "I have a magic weapon that can restrain the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's recovery ability, but this magic weapon itself has no offensive power and needs to be activated in the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's body." As he said that, God King Erosion Earth took out a bead. As long as this corrosion bead is shot into the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's body, it can restrain its recovery ability and also weaken its defense. The bead was black, and the faint streamer on it exuded a rotten aura. Little Bright King Bodhisattva glanced at God King Erosion Earth. If this monk is not mistaken, the law contained in this magic weapon is the rarest law among the earth and stone laws, the Rotten Earth Law. God King Erosion Earth hummed, which was considered an answer. Lin Moyu thought of the information about the earth and stone laws. The earth and stone laws belong to the third echelon laws. This type of law focuses on defense and light attack, and includes a variety of law branches. Among them, there is a law that is very rare and almost no one goes to comprehend and cultivate, which is the Rotten Earth Law. The Rotten Earth Law itself is not strong in attack, but it is very difficult to deal with. The Rotten Earth Law itself has the ability to corrode and rot, and also has the recovery power of the earth and stone laws. Once entangled, it is difficult to get rid of, and if you are not careful, your body will be ruined. Its difficulty has exceeded many second-tier laws. Lin Moyu thought of God King Erosion Earth's name. Erosion Earth was both a name and a title, and also represented the law he was good at. He realized that the law that God King Erosion Earth was good at was actually such an unpopular and poisonous law. Little Bright King Bodhisattva's voice interrupted Lin Moyu's thoughts. The corrosion bead can indeed restrain the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's recovery ability, but the yellow sand knight Rakshasa is also good at earth and stone laws, so the effect of the corrosion bead will be greatly reduced. This monk also has a magic weapon here, which is stronger than the 9th rank of God King in terms of attack power and slightly weaker than the little god Venerate. But it has an advantage, which is sharpness. As long as it can break through the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's defense, this magic weapon is enough to cut off the yellow sand knight Rakshasa's body. Little Bright King Bodhisattva took out his magic weapon, which was a pair of golden scissors. The scissors were filled with the gold law, and one of the characteristics of the gold law was sharpness. Then God King Black Sand also took out his magic weapon. What he took out was something similar to an hourglass. I can use it to trap the yellow sand knight Rakshasa, making it unable to escape, and in the hourglass the damage it receives can be amplified by 1 time. The 3 of them took out their respective magic weapons and then looked at Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu smiled slightly. I have a technique that can launch attacks that exceed the 9th rank of God King, but it is still a bit short of the little God Venerate. The number of times the technique can be used is limited. With my ability, I can only use it 3 times. The technique that Lin Moyu was talking about was naturally corpse explosion. Using the corpse of a stone demon of the 9th rank of God King as a material, it could exert attacks that exceeded the 9th rank of God King, but it was weaker than the little God Venerate. The magic weapons and techniques of the few people could not cause fatal damage to the yellow sand knight Rakshasa, but they could greatly weaken it in a short time. Little Bright King Bodhisattva chanted a Buddhist chant, then the rest will be left to this monk. As long as he can severely injure it, this monk will try his best to kill it even if he risks his life. Lin Mo smiled slightly, then I'll have to rely entirely on little Buddha. It's my duty. Little Bright King Bodhisattva was also not polite, as if slaying the yellow sand yaksha was his responsibility. Lin Mo said, then let's continue to discuss how many crystal cores we need to obtain. In fact, Lin Mo had already expected that Little Bright King Bodhisattva would do his best to kill the yellow sand yaksha. Among the 4 of them, besides himself, the one who most wanted to enter the Yuming swamp was Little Bright King Bodhisattva. Even if the others couldn't produce any magical treasures, he would try every means to get rid of the yellow sand yaksha. Therefore, Lin Mo didn't need to put in too much effort, just pretend to contribute, and then watch the show from the sidelines. 3-0 The discussion ended quickly, and they decided to limit it to 1 hour, and count how much they could get within 1 hour. The yellow sand yaksha wouldn't devour crystal cores endlessly, there's always a limit, and hunting too much might not be useful. Next, the 4 exchanged their combinations. Lin Mo and God King Erosion Earth would enter the lake first to attract the yellow sand yaksha's attention. Little Bright King Bodhisattva and God King Black Sand would enter the lake from the other side, taking the opportunity to kill the fish-bodied dog-headed monsters and obtain crystal cores. Among the 4, God King Erosion Earth was the weakest, only at the 9th rank of God King, even weaker than Lin Mo. And the strength Lin Mo displayed was slightly higher than God King Erosion Earth, but not as good as Little God Venerate. So the task of attracting the yellow sand yaksha was handed over to them, while Little Bright King Bodhisattva Lin and God King Black Sand, being Little God Venerates, could obtain enough crystal cores at the fastest speed. Chapter 1365. Tacit Cooperation, Taking Action to Slay the Yaksha. The whole process went smoothly. Within an hour, Little Bright King Bodhisattva and God King Black Sand had hunted enough crystal cores. With their realm of Little God Venerate, as long as they weren't surrounded by fish-bodied dog-headed monsters, there wouldn't be any danger. Being both Little God Venerates, Little Bright King Bodhisattva acted decisively and cleanly, even better than God King Black Sand. Including the crystal cores Little Bright King Bodhisattva had obtained before, the number of crystal cores had reached 320, and everyone was allocated 80 crystal cores. After some rest and adjustment, the Force aura returned to its peak state. Little Bright King Bodhisattva took the lead in jumping into the lake, followed by Lin Mo and God King Erosion Earth, and God King Black Sand followed at the end. The 4 held death tree branches, dispelled the monsters in the lake, and went straight towards the nearest formation. The crystal cores were collected into the storage magical treasures by the 4, without emitting any aura. After swimming for several minutes, anomalies appeared in the water flow in front of them. Lin Mo thought to himself, here it comes. The yellow sand yaksha sensed the life aura of the 4 and rushed towards them. Its target was Little Bright King Bodhisattva, who was swimming in the front, as Little Bright King Bodhisattva had the most vigorous vitality among the 4. The water flow was separated by invisible force, and the yellow sand yaksha appeared in sight. It held a spear, and stabbed towards Little Bright King Bodhisattva from 100 kilometers away. 03 The water flow swept, and a horizontal vortex appeared in the lake. The top of the vortex was extremely sharp, as if to tear Little Bright King Bodhisattva into pieces. Little Bright King Bodhisattva was prepared, and the Buddhist beads in his hand suddenly lit up. This time, he didn't throw the Buddhist beads. The Buddhist beads burst out bursts of Buddhist light to envelop him, turning into a tough ball of light. The surface of the light sphere was covered with streams of light, and the yellow sand in the water slid to both sides when it touched the light sphere. As if there was an invisible force on the light sphere, making the yellow sand unable to come into contact with it. The vortex bombarded the light sphere head-on. The light sphere bloomed with dazzling light, and the Buddhist sound was loud for a while, and the vortex suddenly lost its aim and shot to the side. The light sphere only deformed slightly, with a feeling of being unaffected. Then Little Bright King Bodhisattva also used the impact of the vortex to push Little Bright King Bodhisattva to fly away. The speed was much faster than Little Bright King Bodhisattva's own movement speed in the lake. While away, Little Bright King Bodhisattva pointed out a Buddhist light, which happened to fall on the yellow sand yaksha. This painless Buddhist light made the yellow sand yaksha feel insulted. It screamed strangely and chased after Little Bright King Bodhisattva. Lin Mo and the other two were close behind. Little Bright King Bodhisattva attracted the yellow sand yaksha's attention, and now the three of them were very safe. Little Bright King Bodhisattva was shrouded in Buddhist light, and blocked the yellow sand yaksha's attack again and again. Each attack of the yellow sand yaksha would become the help of Little Bright King Bodhisattva, allowing him to accelerate in a short time and widen the attention of the two. Several attacks were unsuccessful, and the yellow sand yaksha was obviously trying hard. Its attack became more fierce, but it was still ineffective. Lin Mo looked at Little Bright King Bodhisattva shrouded in Buddhist light, thinking in his heart, if he faced this situation, how should he break the Buddhist light? He felt that he might fight with Little Bright King Bodhisattva. If even his Buddhist light can't be broken, then how to fight? The Buddhist light has the characteristic of deflecting attacks, so it is necessary to restrain this characteristic. After observation, the characteristic of Buddhist light comes from the streamer on the surface. It is these streamers that constantly decompose the attack and push it to both sides. He only needs to solve these streamers. Lin Mo first thought of the law of immortality. The power of death of the law of immortality completely has the ability to confront the streamer, and even corrode the streamer. The power of death has the characteristic of corroding everything. Whether you are a law or a magic weapon, you can corrode it. It lasted for more than 20 minutes, and finally entered the core area, close to the nearest formation. Everyone cheered up. The highlight was about to begin. Little Bright King Bodhisattva came to the formation and took out a crystal core decisively. The moment the crystal core appeared, the yellow sand yaksha's eyes changed. Its eyes changed from anger to greed, and a strong instinct rose from the soul, and there was only one thought in the soul, that is, to eat the crystal core. This seems to be an instinct engraved in the soul, and no temptation can resist it. The yellow sand yaksha decisively gave up chasing Little Bright King Bodhisattva and rushed towards the crystal core, swallowing it in one gulp. The formation immediately started to operate, and a virtual whip automatically formed, and slammed ***** the yellow sand yaksha. The yellow sand yaksha was torn apart, and a huge wound appeared on his body. But it didn't care about it, but showed an expression of enjoyment. Little Bright King Bodhisattva inadvertently glanced at Lin Mo. This situation is indeed the same as what Lin Mo said. He was relieved and more confident in the next plan. He didn't hesitate to take out the second crystal core. The yellow sand yaksha was still enjoying this, and was once again attracted by the breath of the crystal core. The big head turned, and he opened his mouth to swallow the crystal core into his stomach. The formation operated, and the whip appeared again, and slammed ***** the yellow sand yaksha. The yellow sand yaksha didn't feel anything, but showed an even more enjoyable expression than before. Then Little Bright King Bodhisattva kept taking out crystal cores, one after another. The yellow sand yaksha was like a hungry king with a big belly, eating one after another. Whips were constantly generated in the formation, whipping the yellow sand yaksha, making the yellow sand yaksha torn apart and bruised all over. However, the yellow sand yaksha's defense was very strong, and the seemingly hideous and terrifying wounds were actually only skin injuries, not enough to hurt the bones. And its recovery power was really amazing. When the 10th whip was drawn, the first wound had already begun to recover. When the 11th whip was drawn, the first wound had completely recovered. After that, it was the same. No matter how many whips it was hit, the wounds on its body always remained at 10, no more and no less. The breath of the yellow sand yaksha did not decline, and it was still strong. There was a trace of anxiety in Little Bright King's eyes, but he was helpless, so he could only keep taking out crystal cores to maintain the status quo. Seeing that the crystal cores in Little Bright King's hand were about to run out, Lin Mo came to the formation and took out 5 crystal cores at the same time. 5 crystal cores were placed together, emitting a fatal attraction. The yellow sand yaksha swallowed it without hesitation. Next, a more powerful whip appeared, and savagely beat the yellow sand yaksha. The yellow sand yaksha let out a strange cry, like a painful cry, but its expression was extremely enjoyable, forming a strong contrast. The damage caused by this attack was greater than before, and the effect was very good. Sure enough, Lin Mo said secretly in his heart, as he thought. Then quickly take out more crystal cores and let the yellow sand yaksha devour them together. The more crystal cores devoured at one time, the more powerful the whip condensed by the formation, and the greater the damage caused. However, there is also an upper limit. 10 crystal cores are the limit. More than that is useless. The Black Sand God King and the Soil Erosion God King followed suit, taking out at least 10 crystal cores at a time for the yellow sand yaksha to devour. The whip lashed again and again. The yellow sand yaksha looked much more miserable than before. There was no good flesh left on its body, and its aura began to decline. Until the last whip was drawn and the crystal cores were exhausted, Lin Mo Yu shouted in a low voice, "Do it!" The first to attack was the Soil Erosion God King. It threw the corrosion orb at the yellow sand yaksha. At this time, the yellow sand yaksha was still enjoying devouring the crystal cores, and didn't care about the corrosion orb flying over. The corrosion orb successfully drilled into the wound of the yellow sand yaksha, and then exploded silently. A layer of black quickly stained the yellow sand yaksha's body, as if the soil had been completely rotten after thousands of years. A decayed aura appeared on its body surface, and its defense and recovery power decreased sharply. The wound recovery speed was greatly slowed down. Then Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva threw out his golden scissors. Chapter 1366, Fighting the Yellow Sand Yaksha, Buddhist Methods. The golden scissors quickly transformed, instantly turning into giant scissors with a diameter of more than 100 meters, and the pure gold-based laws agitated in the lake. This is a high-level magic weapon of the God King realm. At the moment of attack, the tyrannical gold-based laws dispelled the lake water and formed a vacuum around it. The locked yellow sand yaksha stopped in the vacuum zone, its whole body wrapped in golden light, unable to move. Cut! With a soft shout from Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva, the giant scissors snapped down. At this moment, the yellow sand yaksha was covered in wounds. Its defense had been forcibly broken by the whips of the formation, and the corrosion orb had further weakened its defense and suppressed its recovery power. It can be said that the yellow sand yaksha was completely in a weak state. The golden scissors cut down without any hindrance. The sharp blades cut into the wound, trying to cut the yellow sand yaksha in two. The yellow sand yaksha seemed to react, and a fierce light flashed in its eyes. The spear in its hand pierced out like lightning, hitting the golden scissors. With a loud bang, the golden scissors were knocked away by the spear. Lin Mo Yu saw a huge gap appearing on the golden scissors, and the magic weapon was severely damaged. Even a high-level magic weapon of the God King realm could be severely damaged with one blow. The attack power of the spear in the yellow sand yaksha's hand was extremely astonishing. Of course, this is also related to the nature of the golden scissors itself. The advantage of gold-based laws is that they are extremely sharp and can break everything, but the disadvantage is that they are fragile. Pure gold-based magic weapons are like this. High attack and low defense is the pronoun of this type of magic weapon. An hourglass-shaped magic weapon flew out, instantly flying over the yellow sand yaksha's head. The bottom lid disappeared at the same time, and the sand inside fell down densely. The sand intertwined into a net, covering the yellow sand yaksha. An invisible force bound the yellow sand yaksha, making it unable to move. The shattered corpse of the stone demon appeared beside Lin Mo Yu, and he tapped his fingers 3 times in a row. A huge roar sounded, and the violent explosion almost lifted the bottom of the lake. Columns of water tens of thousands of meters high shot straight into the sky on the lake surface. Each explosion was an attack that surpassed the 9th rank of the God King realm. 3 explosions landed on a monster at the same time, and in the same location. Lin Mo Yu chose the location of the explosion very accurately, which was a wound on the yellow sand yaksha's neck. The yellow sand yaksha's body tilted, and it was blown upside down. If it hadn't been restrained, it would have been blown away. The wound on its neck further expanded, and the yellow sand yaksha's aura also weakened. Lin Mo Yu's face was slightly pale at this moment, as if these 3 explosions had consumed a lot of power. Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva rushed to the yellow sand yaksha's side before the explosion was completely over, and the Buddhist beads were thrown out, transforming into a thick-backed Buddhist blade. Buddhist sounds rang out on the Buddhist blade, as if countless Buddhas were chanting scriptures. The Buddhist sounds filled the ears, carrying a hint of bewitching power, making people unable to help but feel a desire to convert. The ferocity in the yellow sand yaksha's eyes suddenly disappeared. It was obviously affected by the Buddhist sounds. The yellow sand yaksha stood there motionless, allowing the Buddhist blade to chop down. Lin Moyu became vigilant again. He could completely see that even without the hourglass restraint, the yellow sand yaksha would not dodge. At this moment, its soul was bewitched by the Buddhist sounds, as if in an illusion. The Buddhist blade accurately chopped on the yellow sand yaksha's neck, further expanding the wound. A large amount of blood-like substance spurted out from the wound, and the yellow sand yaksha's aura further weakened. Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva didn't stop. After the Buddhist blade chopped down, it transformed back into Buddhist beads and returned to his hand. Then Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva threw the Buddhist beads again. This time, the Buddhist beads transformed into a two-handed heavy sword, with countless gods and Buddhas engraved on the sword body, and the Buddhist sounds rang out again. This sword was even fiercer and more severe than before. The yellow sand yaksha seemed to realize the danger and suddenly reacted. It broke free from the Buddhist sounds, and then its whole body's aura soared, trying to break free from the hourglass control. The Black Sand God King tried his best to maintain the hourglass, but the yellow sand yaksha still broke free from it partially. The yellow sand yaksha waved its spear and collided with the Buddhist sword, blocking the fatal blow. With a bang, the lake water rolled back, and the powerful shock wave rampaged. The Buddhist sword flew back, transforming back into Buddhist beads. Of the 18 beads in this string of Buddhist beads, one of them became dim and appeared some dense cracks, and had already been damaged. A trace of heartache flashed in Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva's eyes. He threw the Buddhist beads out again. Do it, don't let it recover. The Soil Erosion God King had already rushed over. It was faster than the Buddhist beads, its whole body glowing with black light, and the surrounding water flow turned into pitch-black mud. The pitch-black mud turned into a large snake, opened its giant mouth, and bit the wound on the yellow sand yaksha's neck. The yellow sand yaksha roared and waved its spear to knock the large snake away. The large snake exploded in the lake, and the Soil Erosion God King retreated with a muffled groan. At this time, the Buddhist beads transformed into a Buddhist blade again, and heavily slashed at the wound with Buddhist sounds. The yellow sand yaksha groaned, and its aura weakened again. It waved its soft spear to shake off the Buddhist blade, and at the same time, it let out a scream. The scream turned into an invisible sound wave, spreading towards the surroundings. Lin Moyu's heart trembled, it summoning its little brothers. He tapped his finger at the same time, and a red light lit up. Fusion spell, Curse of Time. An attack on the soul level, although it couldn't harm the yellow sand yaksha, it could make it feel pain and interrupt what it was about to do. The scream stopped abruptly, and Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva threw out the Buddhist beads again at this time. This time, the Buddhist beads were brighter than before. 5 completely different weapons appeared at the same time. A knife, a sword, a halberd, a club, and a staff. Obviously, Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva used all his strength this time. The 5 weapons attacked the yellow sand yaksha at the same time, and a great sun rose above Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva's head. The great sun shot out thousands of Buddhist lights, blessing these weapons and increasing their power exponentially. Lin Moyu's heart was awe-stricken. This was his real method, and he had been holding back before. Even the current attack may not be his trump card. The 5 weapons landed on the wound on the yellow sand yaksha's neck at the same time. With a loud noise, the yellow sand yaksha's neck snapped in response. Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw this. Finally killed it. Lin Moyu shook his head, not dead, the crystal core hasn't come out yet. If the crystal core didn't fall out, then it wasn't killed. On the severed head of the yellow sand yaksha, the single horn suddenly bloomed with a bright yellow light, and then the countless fleshy balls on it exploded, growing tentacles composed of laws. These tentacles instantly connected to the body, reattaching the head. The light of the single horn suddenly became larger, and the yellow sand under the lake erupted like a volcano, spewing out columns of sand. The sand columns came crashing towards everyone with powerful impact. At the same time, the yellow sand yaksha completely broke free from the shackles of the hourglass and killed Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva. From the beginning to the end of the battle, Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva caused the most serious damage to it, and in the end, its head was also cut off by Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva. It would be strange if it didn't look for him. Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva's face changed drastically, and the Buddhist beads instantly turned into a large shield. The great sun above his head sprinkled Buddhist light, further strengthening the shield. With a bang, the spear pierced the large shield. Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva's face turned pale, and he was immediately knocked away. Lin Moyu wasn't in a hurry. He knew that Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva had more than just these methods, and he definitely had a backup plan. Besides, what did the life and death of Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva have to do with him? The yellow sand yaksha frantically chased and killed Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva. The spear was like electricity, piercing out one after another, causing Little Wisdom King Bodhisattva to retreat steadily. After reattaching its head, the yellow sand yaksha has become even more frantic. It seems that its attack has become stronger, but in fact, its aura is weaker than before. A Little Mingwang Bodhisattva must have noticed this as well, otherwise he might not have been able to block it. Chapter 1367. Amitabha, Buddha Light Exterminates Demons. Lin Moyu quietly observed the battle between Little Mingwang Bodhisattva and the yellow sand yaksha. Currently, it seems that Little Mingwang Bodhisattva is firmly suppressed by the yellow sand yaksha and has no power to resist. However, in Lin Moyu's eyes, it was not the case. He always paid attention to Little Mingwang Bodhisattva's expression. Seemingly at a disadvantage, Little Mingwang Bodhisattva was actually extremely calm. Moreover, there was a faint hint of killing intent in his eyes, indicating that he was waiting for an opportunity to deliver a fatal blow. The methods of the Buddhist clan are very mysterious and very vicious. Lin Moyu never forgot how Kong Wen Buddha killed him back then. In full view of everyone, he launched a soul attack on himself, even deceiving the eyes of other divine venerables. Ordinary divine venerables cannot do this kind of thing. It was not that Kong Wen Buddha was powerful, but that the methods of the Buddhist clan were too superb. Black Sand Divine King came to Lin Moyu's side, and a sound like sand rubbing sounded. "What do we do?" There was some worry in his eyes. Obviously he had not noticed Little Mingwang Bodhisattva's calmness. In his eyes, Little Mingwang Bodhisattva was at an absolute disadvantage. Moreover, the yellow sand yaksha's offensive was extremely fierce and almost crazy. He wanted to help, but he was afraid that the yellow sand yaksha would turn its target to him. He believed that his strength was inferior to Little Mingwang Bodhisattva. If he faced the yellow sand yaksha alone, he might die. As for Erosion Earth Divine King, needless to say, he was the weakest of the four and even less likely to take action. Lin Moyu said, "Let's prepare to take action and trust Little Mingwang Bodhisattva." Black Sand Divine King really couldn't think of any good ideas, so he could only stare intently. In case Little Mingwang Bodhisattva was really defeated, they would have no choice but to take action. If it really didn't work, they would abandon the battle and escape from the central lake. If they couldn't kill him this time, they would kill him next time. At least they couldn't let Little Mingwang Bodhisattva die, otherwise they wouldn't be able to kill the yellow sand yaksha, and entering the nether swamp would be out of the question. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva held a shield and was frantically attacked by the yellow sand yaksha for several minutes. Although he was at a disadvantage, he had not actually suffered any damage. Finally, after frantically attacking for several minutes, the yellow sand yaksha's offensive gradually weakened. Then, it let out a scream again, and began to summon its little brothers again. It had been attacking for a long time without success and needed the help of its little brothers. Lin Moyu had been guarding against it for a long time. As soon as the sound came out, Lin Moyu had already pointed his finger. A red light flashed, and the yellow sand yaksha let out a scream, and the scream to summon its little brothers stopped abruptly. Lin Moyu interrupted its summoning. The yellow sand yaksha suddenly turned its head to look at Lin Moyu, with violent madness in its eyes. It locked onto himself. The next second, the yellow sand yaksha pounced over like a rocket. At this time, Little Mingwang Bodhisattva's voice came, "Give me a minute." Lin Moyu understood and the wings of the undead suddenly unfolded and flew backwards. In the water, Lin Moyu's speed was not as fast as the yellow sand yaksha's, but with the help of the wings of the undead, the difference was not too big. Escaping was definitely impossible, but holding on for a while should not be a problem. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva put his hands together, chanted Buddhist scriptures, and the great sun above his head became more and more blazing. Under the shroud of Buddha's light, Little Mingwang Bodhisattva was solemn, and in the great sun above his head, one could vaguely see a river of laws twinkling. In the river of laws, it seemed as if countless Buddhas were chanting scriptures. This was the river of laws belonging to the Buddhist clan, and only the Buddhist clan knew what secrets were inside. The yellow sand yaksha caught up with Lin Mo Yu in a dozen seconds, and the spear in his hand stabbed out mercilessly. Lin Mo Yu felt that he was locked by an extremely violent and powerful aura. The wings of the undead vibrated rapidly, instantly cutting off the soul lock. The light speed lich appeared, his body turned into a ray of light, and instantly flew tens of thousands of meters away. The yellow sand yaksha's attack missed, and the lake water was swept and exploded by the huge force. Countless lake water rushed into the sky, like a volcanic eruption. Immediately afterwards, the yellow sand yaksha's neck exploded, and Lin Mo Yu used corpse explosion again to attack the yellow sand yaksha. The yellow sand yaksha's head was blown to the side, and the anger in his eyes grew even stronger, staring at Lin Mo Yu. At this time, Lin Mo Yu had moved away again, escaping quickly. The yellow sand yaksha frantically chased and killed Lin Mo Yu, while Lin Mo Yu used the characteristic of the wings of the undead to cut off the soul lock, and cooperated with the light transforming ability brought by the light speed Aa La Lich, dodging the yellow sand yaksha's attack again and again. During this period, he even launched 2 counterattacks, firmly attracting the yellow sand yaksha's attention. His operation had completely stunned the Black Sand Divine King and the Erosion Earth Divine King. The Black Sand Divine King originally wanted to take action to attract the yellow sand yaksha's attention when Lin Mo Yu couldn't hold on. But I didn't expect Lin Mo Yu to be so flexible. A minute passed quickly, and suddenly thousands of Buddha's light shone down, covering a radius of thousands of miles. The lake water was purified by the Buddha's light and became clear. In the Buddha's light, little Mingwang Bodhisattva was solemn, sitting cross-legged under a great sun. He pointed at the yellow sand yaksha in the void. Evil creature, submit to the law. The mighty Buddha's voice came crashing down, and the yellow sand yaksha was stunned on the spot, motionless. It was once again bewitched by the Buddha's voice, and a thought of conversion arose in its soul. Then little Mingwang Bodhisattva changed his finger into a palm and pressed it out. Amitabha, Buddha light exterminates demons. Chanting the Buddha's name, the Buddha's light flourished and turned into a large palm, suddenly grabbing the yellow sand yaksha. The Buddha's light giant palm squeezed tighter and tighter, trying to crush the yellow sand yaksha. Attacked, the yellow sand yaksha woke up immediately. It struggled frantically, constantly waving its spear to attack the Buddha's light giant palm. The Buddha's light rippled, and after being attacked, the gripping force weakened a bit. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva kept chanting Buddhist scriptures, increasing the power of the Buddha's light giant palm. At this moment, Lin Mo Yu's face was pale, and he said in a low voice, "Attack quickly, help little Mingwang Bodhisattva." He showed a strong sense of weakness, as if he had consumed most of his strength in the previous chase. The Black Sand Divine King and the Erosion Earth Divine King immediately attacked the Yellow Sand Yaksha after hearing Lin Mo Yu's words. The two were at least Divine King rank 9 and Lesser Divine Venerable. Even if they were not good at attacking, their attack power was not too bad. Their attacks also broke through the Yellow Sand Yaksha's defense and caused damage to it. The Yellow Sand Yaksha's aura became weaker and weaker, and after a few minutes of stalemate, it was finally crushed. The body shattered, turned into yellow sand, and scattered into the lake water. Along with the yellow sand, there was also an extremely dazzling crystal core. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva controlled the Buddha's light giant hand and took the crystal core in his hand. He slowly put away his spells, and the great sun above his head disappeared. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva's aura was slightly weak after using the secret technique. This time it was not acting, it was really weak. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva sighed, finally solved it. Lin Mo Yu smiled slightly, it's really not easy. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva took out the crystal core, let's go open the passage. Lin Mo Yu shook his head, there's no hurry for now. The crystal core is already in hand, and the passage can be opened at any time. Let's recover our state first. Lin Mo Yu was right, and little Mingwang Bodhisattva also realized that he was anxious. Now if he rashly starts the passage, if he encounters any danger again, he will become passive. The four returned to the shore and began to meditate and adjust their breathing. After a great battle, among the four, the ones in the best condition were the Black Sand Divine King and the Erosion Earth Divine King. The two of them had almost no consumption. The most consumption was little Mingwang Bodhisattva, who was the main force. Lin Moyu looked like he was severely consumed, but more than half of it was acting. He did this to tell others that his strength was not strong. After a great battle, the four seemed to have more trust in each other, or it may be because of the Great World Oath, and there was less wariness between each other. Lin Moyu looked at the Black Sand Divine King and the Erosion Earth Divine King, two fellow Taoists. Why are you going to the Nether Swamp? Chapter 1368. Why are you going to the Nether Swamp? The God King of Erosion didn't speak, maintaining his usual silence. Lin Moyu wasn't sure if he didn't want to speak, or if he had nothing to say. Because from previous indications, the one who most wanted to enter the Nether Swamp was Little Mingwang Bodhisattva, followed by the Black Sand God King. He himself had only slightly expressed an intention to enter, but it wasn't strong. Only the God King of Erosion remained silent and inscrutable. After pondering for a moment, the Black Sand God King spoke. I didn't know about any Nether Swamp before. When the Yellow Earth Desert first appeared, some of my Sand Clan entered this place, but never returned. After entering the Yellow Earth Desert, I obtained some clues about my clansmen by chance, and learned that there was a place called the Nether Swamp beyond the Yellow Earth Desert. Furthermore, those clues also told me that the Nether Swamp seemed to be able to help me advance further in the realm of Little God Sovereign. Lin Moyu was slightly surprised. You mean, someone from your clan entered the Nether Swamp but couldn't come out, but they sent some information back from the Nether Swamp? The Black Sand God King nodded. Exactly. Lin Moyu was somewhat shocked that someone could transmit information from the Nether Swamp. Amidst the shock, Lin Moyu also thought of some things he hadn't considered. After Shu Qingyang of the human clan was trapped in the Nether Swamp, the powerful figures of the human clan had tried to rescue him, but to no avail. He had always wondered how those powerful figures of the human clan couldn't enter. If they couldn't enter and couldn't save people, how would they know that Shu Qingyang was trapped inside, and even know some information about the Nether Swamp? It seemed that there were some hidden circumstances he didn't understand. As for advancing further in the realm of Little God Sovereign, it wasn't impossible. Even among Little God Sovereigns, there were significant differences. The Black Sand God King was obviously weaker than Little Mingwang Bodhisattva, but Lin Moyu wasn't concerned about the specific levels within. When he reached that realm, he would naturally understand. The Black Sand God King also asked, what is the reason for fellow Taoist Lin's entry into the Nether Swamp? Lin Moyu didn't hide anything. I was entrusted by a senior to enter the Nether Swamp to save someone. The Black Sand God King was slightly stunned. Save someone? Lin Moyu hummed. Also a human clan senior, who entered the Nether Swamp when the Yellow Earth Desert first appeared and never came out. But the powerful figures of my human clan received news that the senior is still alive, so they gave me this task. Lin Moyu was telling the truth, and the Black Sand God King didn't doubt it at all. The God King of Erosion slowly spoke at this time. I don't have to go. Lin Moyu was a little surprised, not expecting this answer. The Black Sand God King explained for the God King of Erosion, Erosion is actually accompanying me. Although we are from different clans, we are friends and have a good relationship. Lin Moyu said, oh, so that's how it was. Lin Moyu's gaze fell on the Little Mingwang Bodhisattva not far away, and he asked generously, I wonder what the little Buddha is doing in the Nether Swamp. The Little Mingwang Bodhisattva closed his eyes to regulate his breathing, and a Buddhist sound came from his mouth. A senior of my clan disappeared in the Nether Swamp, and a Buddhist treasure was left inside. This little monk is going in to retrieve it. The Little Mingwang Bodhisattva gave a very reasonable reason, leaving no one to refute. Buddhist treasures were very precious. In the Buddhist clan, only magic weapons above the God Venerable realm, and refined by special means of the Buddhist clan, could be called Buddhist treasures. A Buddhist treasure being left in the Nether Swamp was indeed worth retrieving. But Lin Moyu didn't completely believe the Little Mingwang Bodhisattva's words, and he always maintained scrutiny of the Buddhist clan. Half a day later, the Little Mingwang Bodhisattva slowly spoke. This little monk has recovered. Lin Moyu also responded, then let's set off. The Black Sand God King glanced at the God King of Erosion, seemingly asking if he wanted to go. After all, the Nether Swamp wasn't safe, and if you weren't careful, you wouldn't be able to get out once you entered. The God King of Erosion and the Black Sand God King exchanged glances, and then made a decision. He would go. Lin Moyu felt that the two seemed to be more than just friends, but more like brothers who had gone through life and death together. The four jumped into the lake again, holding the branches of the death tree, heading towards the formation in the center. This time there were no yellow sand yakshas, and the fish-bodied dog-headed monsters retreated, avoiding them because of the branches of the death tree. The four arrived smoothly in front of the formation in the center. In the center of the formation, a circular depression was exactly the size of the yellow sand yaksha's crystal core. The little Mingwang Bodhisattva took out the crystal core and put it in. The crystal core bloomed with a hazy yellow light, and the entire formation also glowed slightly. The mysterious runes on the formation lit up one after another, weaving into a beautiful pattern. Ancient runes, beautiful patterns, mysterious truths, truly profound. The little Mingwang Bodhisattva said to himself. Lin Moyu's ears twitched slightly. This little Buddha seemed to know something. With his knowledge, he didn't recognize any of the runes here, and could only tell that these runes didn't belong to this era, nor did they belong to ancient times, they should be from the distant past. Similar runes were also found in the mysterious manner in the ancient tomb. This yellow earth desert, which appeared due to chaotic rules, had an inseparable relationship with both of them. The runes exploded, and a golden yellow light shot straight into the sky. The lake water above the formation was dispelled, and the few people looked up and saw the sky outside the lake. A huge black hole appeared in the sky, like a portal. It's actually in the sky. Everyone was stunned. No one would have thought that the passage to the nether swamp was actually in the sky. No one could fly in the yellow earth desert, and no one could find the correct entrance, they could only go through the formation. The little Mingwang Bodhisattva declared a Buddhist title, and then first stepped into the formation. Then the little Mingwang Bodhisattva directly rose into the air, using the power of the formation to rush towards the sky. Lin Moyu also stepped into the formation, and an invisible force lifted it into the air at a rapid speed. The Black Sand God King and the God King of Erosion followed Lin Moyu into the formation. In the blink of an eye, the four passed through the formation one after another, and the portal in the sky disappeared. Just 1 minute later, the formation closed, the lake water poured back in, and everything returned to calm. In the central lake, the yellow sand yaksha's crystal core still existed, and a large amount of yellow sand flew over, wrapping the crystal core. In just a few minutes, a newborn yellow sand yaksha appeared in the central lake. It announced its return with an angry roar, stirring up thousands of waves. In the dark space, Lin Moyu experienced a teleportation and entered another world. Stench, blood, bursts of it entered his nostrils. Lin Moyu almost thought he had returned to the corpse realm. The two had nothing different in terms of smell except for the different laws. Immediately sealing his sense of smell, Lin Moyu began to look at this world. A slightly cold wind blew against his face, carrying a strong aura of death. The heat of the yellow earth desert formed a sharp contrast with the cold here. Like two completely opposite worlds, making it difficult for people to accept for a while. A huge fireball hung in the sky, bringing light to this world. But the fireball had no heat at all, and the flames were gray, which seemed a bit strange. Lin Moyu looked at the fireball in the sky, his heart slightly shocked. Of course he recognized that the flames burning on this fireball were the undead flames. The nether swamp, it's actually like this. The voice of the little Mingwang Bodhisattva came from the side. Chapter 1369 Nether Swamp, Decaying World. The voice of the little Mingwang Bodhisattva carried relief, a kind of, so that's how it is emotion. The little Mingwang Bodhisattva's expression was very complicated at this time. One was joy that he had come to the nether swamp. The second was relief, finally arriving here, the efforts were not in vain. The third was disgust, he didn't like it here, he didn't like it very much, especially the ubiquitous aura of death. The fourth was actually greed, but this greed was well hidden. Lin Moyu's soul was too sensitive, catching all of little Mingwang Bodhisattva's reactions. Lin Moyu analyzed the information he had obtained in his heart, and the insignificant trace of greed caught his attention. Is it because of that Buddhist treasure? Lin Moyu thought to himself, then denied his own idea. If it were because of the Buddhist treasure, the expression in his eyes should be desire, even excitement. Greed, what exactly is it for? While observing little Mingwang Bodhisattva, he also observed Black Sand Divine King and Erosion Earth Divine King. Black Sand Divine King's reaction was much simpler. He seemed to be looking for something, which matched the information he had provided. Lin Moyu asked, fellow Taoists, we have already entered the nether swamp. Are we going to continue acting together, or separate? The four of them were maintaining a certain distance from each other. They had already left the central lake, and the Great World Oath had lost its effect. Although there was a little bit of trust between them, this level of trust could be betrayed at any time. Little Mingwang Bodhisattva didn't think much and directly said, "This monk wants to act alone." Lin Moyu had already guessed that he would say this. His purpose in entering the nether swamp was impure, and it was definitely not as simple as he said. Since little Mingwang Bodhisattva had already said so, Black Sand Divine King also took the opportunity to say, "Let's also choose to act alone." He said, "We, already including Erosion Earth Divine King." Lin Moyu smiled slightly, "Then let's take care of ourselves." The short-term cooperation ended, and the team disbanded. Everyone came from different races and had different purposes. It was possible that when they met again in the future, they would be separated by life and death. It was also possible that the next time they met, they would fight each other and fight to the death. Everything was unknown, and anything was possible. On the dark and vast earth, Lin Moyu was moving forward alone. Actually, he wasn't alone. He had already scattered the Death Knights to various places. From the information transmitted back by the Death Knights, the scale of the Nether Swamp was unexpectedly large. There were indeed many swampy areas in the Nether Swamp. However, these swampy areas did not occupy a large area. The larger ones were only about 100 kilometers in diameter, while the smaller ones were only a few hundred meters. They also had nothing special about them, and were clearly not the place Lin Moyu was looking for. A topographic map gradually formed in his mind. Lin Moyu discovered that these ubiquitous swamps seemed to have some kind of special pattern. They looked a bit messy, but in fact, they contained a certain order. As the map in his mind became more and more complete, Lin Moyu finally knew what they looked like. These swamps of varying sizes were like splashed water droplets. It was like throwing a giant water ball from 100 meters high onto the ground. After the water ball landed, it exploded, splashing water in all directions, forming seemingly messy but actually orderly water droplets. After discovering this, Lin Moyu quickly locked onto his target and knew the direction he was going. The Death Knights took a step back and rushed forward. The Death Knights continued to accelerate, and their speed became faster and faster, soon reaching the limit that the lowest desert could withstand. But in the next second, the Death Knights broke through this limit and turned into streams of light. The light speed lich appeared on Lin Moyu's shoulder. With it present, all undead could turn into light and move at a speed of 150,000 kilometers per second. There is no speed limit here. But flying is still not allowed here. The laws are no longer dominated by the laws of the earth and stone. Here, all kinds of laws can be used to exert full power. The aura of death is very strong, which has a bonus effect on the laws of death, and the same is true for my laws of immortality. If there are monsters in the Nether Swamp, they will either be carrion-type monsters or undead-type monsters. Lin Moyu constantly made various judgments based on the information he obtained. These judgments were based on his experience, and there was a high probability that they would not be wrong. The speed of the Death Knights reached 150,000 kilometers per second, half the speed of light. In just 1 minute, they had run more than 7 million kilometers. They could have run even further, but because swamps often appeared in the way, the Death Knights had to detour and slow down. After advancing for more than 10 minutes and flying hundreds of millions of kilometers, they finally saw a giant swamp. From the Death Knight's perspective, the edge of this swamp could not be seen at a glance. The Death Knights scattered and ran along the banks of the swamp, measuring the distance. The shock in Lin Moyu's eyes became stronger and stronger. The diameter of this swamp was over 1 million kilometers, enough to fit a star. A swamp the size of a star had never been heard of. The Death Knights continued to advance past the giant swamp, while Lin Moyu arrived at the edge of the swamp later. The mud in the swamp was as black as ink, looking lifeless. Occasionally, some bubbles could be seen rising from the mud and then bursting. But combined with the undead vision, Lin Moyu knew that it was not the case at all. Inside this darkness, there was a lot of rotten blood. The blood had rotted and turned into mud. Even if he blocked his sense of smell now, his soul should be able to feel the bursts of stench. The smell here was no longer as simple as a stench, but was full of the resentment of the dead, forming a deadly poison. A true God Realm cultivator would die of poisoning if they stayed here for a long time and smelled it a few times. Even blocking the sense of smell was useless. You couldn't smell the odor, but you couldn't stop the deadly poison that was enough to corrode the soul. In the undead vision, there was no soul fire in the swamp. But Lin Moyu wasn't sure if there really wasn't, or if it was like the flying ants, obscuring the undead vision. After pondering for a moment, several skeleton god warriors rushed out. They turned into light and flew over the swamp at the fastest speed. Because they were very fast, they didn't sink in for a while. After running for 2 seconds and nearly 300,000 kilometers, several skeleton god warriors sank into the swamp. A suction force was generated from the swamp mud, as if a giant hand had grabbed the skeleton god warriors, trying to pull them down. The skeleton god warriors waved their battle knives and chopped down with all their strength. With a loud bang, the mud exploded, shooting straight into the sky like a volcanic eruption. The skeleton god warriors used this to jump high from the swamp. At this time, Lin Moyu finally saw something different. In the undead vision, a large amount of soul fire suddenly appeared under the mud. Then they rushed out of the mud and grabbed the skeleton god warriors in midair. They were all rotten hands, some like human hands, some like animal claws. It was unknown how many years had passed, and rotten flesh was hanging on them, even still dripping blood. The skeleton god warriors waved their battle knives in midair, and when the knives fell on the rotten flesh, they actually made a metallic clanging sound. The huge recoil force pushed the skeleton god warriors to a higher area again. At this time, a huge suction force was generated from the swamp, wrapping around the skeleton god warriors, trying to pull them down. Lin Moyu's heart moved, and he immediately recalled the skeleton god warriors. At this time, his expression was a little dignified. In addition to the monsters in the swamp, he also saw something else. Chapter 1370, The Origin of the Nether Swamp. In the very center of the swamp, there was a stone tablet. The stone tablet was very high, reaching 1,000 meters. It was really because the swamp was too big that even with Lin Moyu's eyesight, he couldn't see the stone tablet while standing on the shore. The stone tablet was hidden in the black and gray swamp center. Only when the skeleton god warriors approached the center of the swamp did they see the stone tablet. Lin Moyu thought of the information that Zhu Qiwu had given him, that Shu Qingyang's soul was entrusted to a stone tablet in the swamp. But whether it was the one in front of him, Lin Moyu felt that it shouldn't be. Like this kind of giant swamp, there should be more than one in the world of the Nether Swamp. Based on this, there might be a stone tablet in the center of the giant swamp. It's really hard to say which swamp's stone tablet Shu Qingyang would be in. The Netherworld swamp is clearly not safe. Those rotten hands, rotten claws, and soul fires were no weaker than a 9th order god king. These guys are hidden in the swamp, and they are not easy to deal with. Flying is not allowed here, this is the home field of these rotten monsters. Lin Mo pondered for a moment, feeling a little helpless. Having come this far, giving up is impossible, so he can only take it one step at a time. As for what is in the stone tablet, he can only know by seeing it with his own eyes. With a thought, Lin Mo turned into a streak of light and rushed towards the center of the swamp. His speed was the same as the skeleton god warrior, reaching 150,000 kilometers per second, exceeding the limit of the 9th order god king, and even exceeding the small god. 2 seconds later, Lin Mo finally saw the tenfold phantom in his sight. At this time, he was still far away from the stone tablet, but suction came from under the swamp, and Lin Mo's body had begun to fall. With a thought, a skeleton god warrior appeared under him. Stepping on the skeleton god warrior, his body once again turned into a ray of light and rushed out. The skeleton god warrior was taken back before falling into the swamp, everything was perfectly coordinated. No matter how good the coordination is, it can't compare to the cooperation between himself and the Undead Legion. The Undead Legion is his hand, as easy as using his fingers. The closer he got to the stone tablet, the stronger the suction from the swamp became. Lin Mo borrowed strength from the skeleton god warrior again and again, and got rid of the influence of the swamp's suction again and again. After 5 consecutive times, he finally landed on the stone tablet. Standing on the stone tablet, Lin Mo looked at the stone tablet. The material used for the stone tablet was exactly the same as the material of the mysterious manor castle, an extremely strong material. Even if Lin Mo used all his strength, he couldn't leave a trace on it. But the stone tablet in front of him had traces of battle, and it was also engraved with words. Grave of the 3rd Squad, 1st Army, Netherworld Legion. After seeing the words engraved on the stone tablet, a chill rose in his heart. He realized that his initial guess was correct, a shocking battle had indeed occurred here. The Netherworld swamp was not a swamp, but a graveyard of flesh and blood. The 3rd Squad of the 1st Army of the Netherworld Legion was collectively buried here. Amidst the chill, Lin Mo couldn't help but be shocked. A squad's graveyard actually requires an area of millions of kilometers. To what extent did the number of this squad reach? Lin Mo felt that even if all his undead legion were gathered together, 10 million undead legion would not need such a large place. The number of this squad must have reached at least hundreds of millions. This was just a squad belonging to the First Army. How many such squads should there be in an army? And in the Netherworld Legion, how many armies should there be? Since there is a Netherworld Legion, will there be other legions? How big would the other legions be? It is estimated that they would not be small. Lin Mo was deeply shocked. He originally thought that the number of his undead legion was large enough. As long as his realm came up, the undead legion would be enough to sweep the stars. But now it seems that his mere undead legion is really just that, not even a small shrimp. To what extent was the war in ancient times fierce, and how large was the scale of the war? Lin Mo was deeply touched, and some of his original complacency disappeared at this moment. After forcing himself to calm down, he repeatedly and carefully checked the stone tablet. The stone tablet was strong enough to withstand the erosion of time. First, he used the undead vision, but did not find any souls hidden in the stone tablet. He saw nothing unusual with his naked eyes either. Finally, Lin Mo used the power of his soul to hook the stone tablet. This time the stone tablet reacted, shaking slightly. The slight vibration of the 1,000-meter stone tablet, transmitted to the swamp, immediately caused no small reaction. Flesh and blood mud were flying, and streams of black-red liquid with a strong rotten smell emerged from the bottom of the stone tablet. Lin Mo looked at the suddenly emerging black-red liquid, pondered for a few seconds, and suddenly thought of a possibility. He jumped down to the bottom of the stone tablet, and with a wave of his palm, sucked up a large amount of black-red liquid. His fingers turned into a sword shape, urging the black-red liquid to evenly smear it on the words of the stone tablet. When Lin Mo's first stroke fell, the stone tablet began to vibrate slightly, and more black-red liquid emerged from the bottom. The bottom was like a small fountain, constantly gushing out black-red liquid. Lin Mo smeared each stroke very carefully. The reason why Lin Mo did this was because he saw some pictures. This is a tomb, and the stone tablet is actually a tombstone. The words on it are formed by intaglio, and there seems to be a trace of unhidden blood color inside the words. This shows that a long time ago, these words had colors. It's just that after countless years, the color on the words has faded. He thought of the blood-filled characters on the tombstones of the human race in the small world. Just as a black-red liquid emerged from the bottom of the stone tablet, Lin Mo immediately knew what he should do. Use his finger as a pen to fill in the words for the tombstone. When all 15 characters were smeared black-red, a red light suddenly shot out from the stone tablet, straight into the sky. The stone tablet rumbled, and the red light filled the sky, covering an area of 10,000 meters. A scene that had disappeared in history was staged before Lin Mo. A peerless powerhouse wearing heavy armor stood in the starry sky. The starry sky was filled with corpses, endless and countless. In front of the powerhouse was a powerful army. Facing the strong army alone, this powerhouse was not afraid at all. His voice resounded through the starry sky, "The army was defeated, this general is ashamed of his master. This general will exchange his life for it, and bring the brothers back." As soon as the voice fell, the powerhouse's body collapsed, and at the same time, an earth-shattering and terrifying power erupted. All the corpses that were floating in the starry sky automatically gathered into a ball, turned into flesh and blood, broke through the space limit, and teleported away. Immediately afterwards, the scene came to a gray world. Above the gray world, undying flames were burning, illuminating the world. Netherworld Swamp. Lin Mo whispered, this scene was the Netherworld Swamp. But at that time it could not be called the Netherworld Swamp, at that time the earth was flat, and there was no swamp. The sky broke open, and huge masses of flesh and blood fell from the sky. The flesh and blood smashed on the earth, splashing outwards like water. A lot of flesh and blood splashed out, but the main body was still intact, forming giant swamps with a diameter of millions of kilometers. The splashed flesh and blood formed swamps of varying sizes. Then the general's phantom appeared in the sky. He died, but his heroic spirit was immortal. He stretched out his hand to summon a large number of stone tablets, and at the same time engraved words on the stone tablets. His voice rolled out like thunder. Burial place, the fire of immortality shines forever, waiting for the master to return, and fight the galaxy again. As if to echo his words, countless flesh and blood boiled, and streams of flesh and blood mud mixed with countless broken limbs, like volcanic eruptions, shot up 100,000 meters into the sky, and it was difficult to calm down for a long time. Chapter 1371. Ancient Images, That Damned Curiosity. The great battle never ceased, the soul never perished. Illuminated by the undying flames, for countless years, the soul fires of these warriors had never been extinguished. The light on the stone tablet gradually weakened, and as it was about to disappear, a final wisp of red light flew into Lin Moyu's body. This wisp of red light was so fast that Lin Moyu didn't have time to react. The red light directly entered his body and then disappeared. Lin Moyu's body suddenly felt lighter, and he felt that some kind of restriction had disappeared. Then, his body automatically floated in midair. I can fly. Lin Moyu realized that the restriction on flying in this world had disappeared. With a little thought, Lin Moyu knew that it was because he had colored the words on the stone tablet. The swamp was the grave, and the stone tablet was actually the tombstone. Coloring the inscriptions on the tombstone was actually a sign of respect for the deceased. Lin Moyu completed these things instinctively and gained recognition. Lin Moyu bowed slightly towards the tombstone. Regardless of the reasons for the war that broke out in ancient times, it had nothing to do with him. Right and wrong were even more irrelevant to him. After countless years, there was no need to dwell on these. Lin Moyu had only seen the images of that year, and was shocked by the integrity of the soldiers, and infected by the spirit of the Legion General's self-sacrifice. And their loyalty to their master. Even after death for hundreds of millions of years, they were still waiting for their master to return. Combining all kinds of things, Lin Moyu bowed slightly to the tombstone from the bottom of his heart. Including coloring the inscriptions before, it was also from the heart. After completing all this, Lin Moyu looked towards the distance. In that direction, the Death Knights once again discovered a giant swamp. Needless to say, there must be a similar tombstone in the swamp. Lin Moyu transformed into a stream of light and shot away. On the way, he released more Death Knights, galloping across this vast land, looking for more giant swamps. From the picture just now, it could be seen that this first army group was composed of a full 100 squads. After 100 squads died in battle, their general sacrificed himself at the cost of returning all 100 squads. That is to say, in the Nether Swamp, there would be 100 giant swamps. Xu Qingyang's soul should be hidden in the tombstone in one of the giant swamps. Fortunately, he could fly now, which brought a lot of convenience, and the search speed could be much faster. A stream of light flew in this gray and black world, and the scenery below quickly swept past and disappeared from sight. Soon, Lin Moyu arrived at the second swamp, and without saying a word, he rushed over directly. A few seconds later, Lin Moyu stopped in front of the huge tombstone. Tomb of the 8th Squad, 1st Army Group, Nether Legion. The inscription on the tombstone changed from the 3rd Squad to the 8th Squad. After carefully observing and confirming that Xu Qingyang's soul was not in the tombstone, Lin Moyu used his soul to hook the tombstone. With a slight tremor, a large amount of black and red liquid emerged from under the tombstone. Lin Moyu followed the same method, using his finger as a pen to color the inscriptions on the tombstone. Coloring the inscriptions was a sign of respect for the dead. Lin Moyu painted very steadily and evenly. One large character after another was dyed black and red. The soul felt the bloody smell. These black and red liquids were the essence and blood of powerful warriors from ancient times. When all the words were colored, the tombstone also bloomed with a red light, soaring into the sky, exactly the same as before. Then Lin Moyu once again saw the previous image, without any difference. But the image could not be stopped. Lin Moyu could only patiently watch it. Fortunately the time was not long, only 2 minutes. But at the end of the image, the picture changed. The general of the 1st Army Group, his heroic spirit undying, stood proudly between heaven and earth, his voice booming. Burial ground, the undying fire shines forever, waiting for the master to return and fight in the starry sky again. Flesh and blood soared into the sky, echoing with it. The previous image ended here, but now, there was a continuation. A gap suddenly appeared in the sky, as if someone had forcibly torn the sky. Lin Moyu even heard the cracking sound when the sky was torn. The picture stopped abruptly again and disappeared. Lin Moyu couldn't help but feel curious in his heart. Who exactly tore the sky? Were enemies chasing in? How should the general, who only had a heroic spirit left, and the warriors who had turned into bloody mud, deal with it? Without thinking, Lin Moyu continued to enter the next giant swamp. Perhaps the answer was in the next tombstone. One swamp after another was discovered, and the tombstones were found. Lin Moyu kept coloring the words on the tombstones, repeatedly watching the images left over from ancient times. He found that the image records on each tombstone were of different lengths. The short ones were even less than 20 seconds, only recording the scene when the warriors had just returned. The long ones also stopped after the sky was torn, always preventing him from seeing what happened later. Although he already had some guesses in his mind, guesses were just guesses after all, and they might not be correct. Gradually, Lin Moyu also discovered a pattern. The higher the squad number of the tombstone, the more complete the recorded image. Moreover, the higher the squad number of the tombstone, the more it penetrated into this land, closer to the center point. After repeated confirmation, it was found that this was indeed the case. This also pointed out the direction for Lin Moyu. The number was the best guiding light, he only needed to go in the direction of the high number. There were a total of 100 teams, which was just numbers 1 to 100. The curiosity became heavier and heavier, and Lin Moyu wanted to know more and more what happened later. At the same time, the search for Shu Qingyang did not stop. Anyway, he didn't know which stone tablet Shu Qingyang was hiding in, so no matter where he searched, the probability was the same, and it was all just luck. 2 days later, Lin Moyu came to a tombstone. The appearance and size of the tombstone were no different from what he had seen before, the only difference was the number on the inscription. Tomb of the 82nd Squad, 1st Army Group, Nether Legion. This is the 36th tombstone, I hope there will be some new discoveries. Skillfully activating the tombstone, coloring the inscriptions, and watching the image recorded in the tombstone. After watching the same image for a full 36 times, this time there was finally some progress. After the sky was torn apart, 2 huge palms probed in. The 2 palms clasped together, as if holding an invisible crack in the sky, and then pulled hard. With a whoosh, the opening in the sky instantly expanded countless times. The general's heroic spirit simultaneously raised the battle knife in his hand and let out a roar. The picture stopped and disappeared again. Lin Moyu couldn't help but sigh, this ability to whet people's appetite is really powerful. Curiosity was stirred up again and again, but the real answer was never obtained. This feeling was not very pleasant. The red light gradually extinguished, and just as Lin Moyu was about to leave, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and he saw an item standing at the bottom of the tombstone. After the red light of the tombstone faded, the black and red blood at the bottom receded like a tide, revealing a large area of bloody mud. This item was revealed only now. It was at the bottom of the tombstone, close to the tombstone, with half of it trapped in the bloody mud. This was obviously something that did not belong to the nether swamp. Lin Moyu sucked it with his hand and sucked it into his palm. The item was stained with black and red blood. Lin Moyu reached out and wiped it, removing the blood. The item was a rectangular box, only as small as a palm, very delicate, and looked like a female item. It was originally hidden at the bottom of the tombstone, and it was not revealed until he finished coloring and watching the image. Lin Mo pushed the box 100 meters away, then opened it remotely. A silver light shot out from the box, like a sharp sword piercing the sky. Chapter 1372, A Sword from the Starry Sky Murloc Race. Lin Mo was very cautious. If he had opened it himself just now, this sword-like light would have definitely landed on him. Although it wouldn't be dangerous, it wouldn't be pleasant either. Lin Mo could sense that the attack power of this light had already reached the realm of a lesser god. After a few seconds, the light disappeared and the box returned to calm. But Lin Mo didn't move. He used his undead vision to check and confirm that there was no soul inside the box, and then he was slightly relieved. Having a soul and not having a soul are two different concepts. If there is a soul, no matter what is in the box, even if it is just a magic weapon, it is a magic weapon controlled by someone. A powerful magic weapon coupled with a soul in the lesser god realm represents danger. If there is no soul, even if it is a magic weapon with a weapon spirit, the danger will be greatly reduced. After confirming that there was no major danger, Lin Mo approached the box again. Inside the box was a small silver sword, with silver light flowing on it. It didn't look like silver metal, but rather like silver jade. It doesn't look like a human sword. Lin Mo looked at the pattern on the sword. It wasn't a human pattern, and the sword-making technique was also different from that of humans. This sword belonged to a foreign race, but for some reason, he had a faint sense of familiarity. After thinking for a while, he knew where this sense of familiarity came from. This sword did not belong to the human race, but to the Starry Sky Murloc race. He had seen a similar sword in Yu Qingru's hands. It can't be said to be exactly the same, but at least 90% similar. Has a lesser god of the Starry Sky Murloc race been here and then died here? There was too little information to infer anything. The grade of this sword is very high, but he can't judge how high it is for the time being. However, he was sure that this sword had already given birth to a weapon spirit. It would not be easy to subdue a magic weapon that had given birth to a weapon spirit, and it would take a lot of time. It could take as little as a few dozen days or as long as a few years. Now was not the time, so Lin Mo put it away and would talk about it in the future. After searching so many tombstones, he finally found items from the outside world, which made Lin Mo feel that Shu Qingyang shouldn't be too far away. Those who came in back then were all lesser gods, and the number wouldn't be too many, but it wouldn't be too few either. I just don't know what they encountered back then, why they were trapped here and unable to leave. Lin Mo muttered to himself. He hadn't encountered any danger from the time he came in until now. Being able to make so many lesser gods fall here must be dangerous. It's just, where exactly is the danger here, and why haven't I encountered it since I came in? Thinking of this, Lin Mo suddenly realized something. It's not that I haven't encountered it, but that I have resolved it. One of the dangers should be from the swamp, but I haven't had much contact with the swamp. I colored the inscriptions on the tombstones and gained the ability to fly, so I don't need to have contact with the swamp, so naturally there is no danger. Obviously, those lesser gods back then didn't color the inscriptions on the tombstones and couldn't fly here, so naturally they would be attacked by the carrion corpses in the swamp. And the closer you get to the central area, the greater the danger. Lin Mo looked up at the undead flames in the sky. The undead flames were burning fiercely, scattering gray light on the earth, like a star without temperature, nourishing the nether swamp. At this moment, Lin Mo finally understood. Back then, the warriors returned and wanted to use the undead flames for warming and nourishment, in order to fight in the starry sky again one day. But the undead flames also have strengths and weaknesses. The weaker the undead flames are, the weaker the undead flames are. The carrion corpses in the outer swamp are naturally weak, and the degree of danger is also low. The closer you get to the center, the stronger the undead flames are, and the carrion corpses inside naturally become stronger. The lesser gods who came in back then would definitely enter the swamp to explore the tombstones. They would also inevitably fight with the carrion corpses in the swamp. Even if they were lesser gods, they might not be the opponents of these carrion corpses. This is because the carrion corpses had already died in battle. If they were alive, those lesser gods would not be enough for them to pinch with one hand. This is one of the dangers he can think of. As for whether there are other dangers, Lin Mo feels that there should be more than that. Otherwise, when someone is in danger in the swamp, those lesser gods are all smart people and naturally wouldn't enter the swamp again. If a few die, it's impossible for the entire army to be wiped out. After figuring this out, Lin Mo realized that he was really lucky. Fortunately, he had a flash of inspiration to color the inscriptions on the tombstones, otherwise, with his strength, it would be quite dangerous to fight with the carrion corpses in the swamp. ADCE. He thought of the little bright king Bodhisattva, and the black sand god king, and the erosion earth god king. I wonder how the three of them are doing now, and whether they have found the right method. He continued to look for tombstones, one after another. In the next half-day, he found 3 more tombstones, namely the tombstones of the 84th, 87th, and 89th squads. The pictures on these 3 tombstones were no different, and he still didn't get the correct answer. Under the tombstone of the 87th squad, Lin Mo once again obtained an item. It was a glove, but unfortunately the glove had been corroded by the swamp and was mostly rotten. Perhaps before, this was also a good magic weapon, but now it is completely broken. The laws in the material have collapsed, leaving only the firmness of the material itself. After leaving the tombstone of the 89th squad, the Death Knight, who had been running ahead, suddenly sent back an alert. Lin Mo connected to the Death Knight as soon as possible, and the undead vision was activated. A gray light flashed before his eyes, and the undead vision was cut off. The Death Knight died, killed by a strong attack. Lin Mo didn't even have time to see the other party clearly. With a thought, the Death Knight was resurrected in place, and Lin Mo quickly connected to the undead vision. A monster wearing heavy armor and 3 meters tall was standing not far from the Death Knight. The Death Knight and the monster were about 100 meters apart. The monster held a large knife and slashed at the newly resurrected Death Knight. The light of the knife flashed, and the Death Knight died again. Sure enough, there are more than just dangers in the swamp. Lin Mo was awe-stricken. He didn't let the Death Knight resurrect again, and flew over himself. He flew higher and higher, more than 10,000 meters above the ground. That monster was very strong, and he didn't want to get too close to it. Taking advantage of the ability to fly, he observed from a high position to see the situation clearly. Soon, he saw the monster. His gaze swept over, and behind the monster, one after another of the same monsters came into view. There was more than one monster, but many. The number of monsters exceeded 1,000 just within sight. There should be more in the invisible places. Those monsters were 3 meters tall and wore heavy armor. But there were many damages on the armor, especially on the head, most of which had been damaged, revealing the monster's head. The monster had thick hair, not human, more like an ape. Their eyes glowed with a bloody light, exuding a cruel aura. When Lin Mo observed them, they also sensed Lin Mo's existence. One person raised his head, and the red light in his eyes lit up. Hundreds of monsters simultaneously slashed their knives, slashing at Lin Mo in the air. One after another, majestic and terrifying knife lights attacked Lin Mo. Lin Mo calmly dodged and avoided the attack. Suddenly, everything went black before his eyes. A monster had appeared in front of him at some unknown time. The monster, resembling an ape, leapt from the ground, soaring to a height of 10,000 meters, its war blade cleaving down. Chapter 1373, The Terrifying War of Ancient Times. Lin Moyu's expression changed slightly, not expecting the ape monster to be so fast. The sharp war blade was close at hand. The wings of the undead vibrated rapidly, and Lin Moyu transformed into a stream of light, instantly flying hundreds of kilometers away, avoiding the attack. The ape monster's attack missed, crashing into the swamp like a meteor. The originally calm swamp instantly stirred up huge waves, with flesh and blood mixed with mud surging and transforming into a giant hand, slapping down on the ape monster. Nearby, hundreds of ape monsters simultaneously raised their war blades, the sharp light of the blades tearing the flesh and blood mud into fragments. Large amounts of decaying corpses and broken limbs fell from the flesh and blood mud, but were quickly sucked back into the swamp. Next, the swamp continued to boil, and decaying corpses with incomplete bodies crawled out of the swamp, charging towards the ape monsters. The corpses were not restricted by the underworld swamp and could fly freely in the air. However, the ape monsters clearly could not, otherwise they would not have had to jump up to attack Lin Moyu just now. The two sides engaged in a great battle, neither willing to yield. The corpses' attacks were strong, leaving dents in the ape monsters' armor. In Lin Moyu's eyes, the corpses' attacks, even if not as strong as a lesser god Venerate, were not far off. The ape monsters' attacks were equally powerful, on par with the corpses. Lin Moyu watched, and various conjectures arose in his mind. The corpses and apes in the primal spirit swamp are not on the same side. Not only are they not on the same side, it seems they even have a feud. This is the territory of the First Legion of the Underworld Legion, so it seems these apes are likely invaders. These apes are somewhat similar to the giant hand that tore open the sky. Lin Moyu combined the images he had seen before and made his own guesses. He watched the great battle between the two sides for a while. After about 10 minutes, the battle officially ceased. The swamp churned out waves, and the thick flesh and blood mud carried the corpses back into the swamp. The apes were slightly injured, and their armor was dented by the corpses. However, their injuries recovered at an alarming rate, returning to normal in less than 10 seconds. Even the dented armor automatically recovered in a very short time. At this time, Lin Moyu had roughly judged the strength of these apes. They surpassed the 9th rank of God Kings, comparable to the Erosion Earth God King or Golden Radiance, but slightly weaker than a lesser God Venerate. However, they were numerous. Even a lesser god Venerate like the lesser Bright King Bodhisattva would find it troublesome to face a few, let alone dozens or hundreds at the same time. Here, one could not fly, and there was even the possibility of being beaten to death by a mob. These apes had the recovery and defense comparable to the Yellow Sand Night Demons. Their attacks were slightly weaker, but their numbers far exceeded the Yellow Sand Night Demons. Overall, they were more difficult to deal with than the Yellow Sand Night Demons. After pondering for a moment, Lin Moyu could not find a way to deal with the ape monsters and could only avoid them. Fortunately, the ape monsters would not enter the swamp, so Lin Moyu directly chose to fly over the swamp. At this time, he had to be thankful that he had made the right decision at the beginning. If he could not fly, then he would have difficulty moving an inch here. With ape monsters blocking the road on the ground and the swamp being extremely dangerous, he could directly declare the mission a failure. Even now, he could not find a way to leave the underworld swamp, and he might be trapped here to death. At the same time, he realized that he could fly here, thus avoiding the ape monsters. If the Black Sand God King and the Lesser Bright King Bodhisattva and others had not made the corresponding correct choices, they would not be able to fly here. With their strength, even if the three of them joined forces, it would be difficult to break through. But whether they could come over or not was none of his business. It would be best if they all could not come over. Soon, he arrived at the center of the swamp and saw the tombstone. Tomb of the 90th Squad of the 1st Legion of the Underworld Legion. Lin Moyu first conducted an inspection, and then skillfully activated the tombstone. After the black-red essence blood appeared, he immediately began to color the words. Number 90, already very close to the core. Could it be possible to see more images? Lin Moyu thought in his heart, his hands moving quickly and steadily, quickly coloring all the words. When the last word was colored, the tombstone bloomed with a bright red light. The scene that he had seen dozens of times appeared again. When the sky was finally torn open, the picture did not stop there, but began to continue playing. An incomparably huge ape head with thick, long hair stretched in from the torn crack. It really is them. Lin Moyu was shocked. The ape that tore the sky was exactly the same as the ape he had seen before, only stronger and more terrifying. In the image, at the moment the ape's head stretched in, hundreds of tombstones in the swamp simultaneously shot out red light. The red light converged into a blade and chopped off the ape's head. The whole process was clean and neat, taking less than half a second. Massive amounts of blood gushed from the severed wound, raining down in the underworld swamp. The general's heroic spirit of the 1st Legion of the Underworld Legion laughed loudly, and he waved his hand fiercely. An invisible force gathered the blood rain together, turning it into 100 streams, and injecting them into each swamp respectively. With the irrigation of the ape's blood rain, the originally lifeless swamp clearly had more vitality. 0 AAA seeking fresh flowers AAAAAAAAAA. The general's heroic spirit laughed even more crazily, dare to chase after us, courting death. His madness obviously did not scare the pursuers. More pursuers rushed in from the gap torn open by the ape. They braved the blood rain and charged into the underworld swamp. Lin Moyu saw that these pursuers were exactly the same as the ape monsters he had just seen. It was just that in ancient times, when these ape monsters were still alive, they were even stronger. It was not known exactly how strong they were, but Lin Moyu had a feeling that they could kill him easily. These were terrifying experts. The war in ancient times was also a terrifying war. Countless ape monsters charged into the underworld swamp. They carried a terrifying killing intent, clearly wanting to completely destroy the underworld swamp, and not give the 1st Legion a chance to be reborn. The general's heroic spirit laughed even more crazily. You will all die, all die. ... I curse you, your flesh and blood will turn into nourishment, you will be forever trapped here, neither alive nor dead. Forever. Curse you, forever. The general's heroic spirit's voice echoed throughout the underworld swamp. The undying flame in the sky shook violently. It was like a star without temperature. When it began to vibrate, the entire underworld swamp vibrated with it. The undying flame radiated an invisible and intangible power, but it brought death. The ape monsters that rushed into the underworld swamp had their auras plummeting, and they lost their life force in less than 2 seconds. They died, all their vitality was corroded and left their bodies. They died silently, without any resistance. The undying flame in the sky was extremely powerful, killing people invisibly. The picture paused again, quickly becoming blurred and disappearing. The entire battle lasted only a minute, making Lin Moyu's heart surge. Compared to such a war, the great battles he had experienced were really nothing. Such powerful beings died just like that. It seemed that God Venerates could only be considered cannon fodder in this kind of war. The ape monsters that finally rushed into the underworld swamp were cursed, and their vitality dissipated in an instant. Lin Moyu tried hard to suppress the throbbing in his heart. This battle was not over yet, it was still continuing. He had to continue searching for the swamp, searching for the tombstone. Then he carefully observed the bottom of the tombstone to see if there was anything there. As the black and red blood receded, a faint blue light shone through. As expected, there's something. Soil. Chapter 1374. Can enter but can't exit, damn it's a trap. A small crystal, emitting a faint blue light. Seemingly because it had been eroded by flesh and blood mud for a long time, some black and red had appeared in the crystal. From the crystal, one could feel a strong water-based law aura. This was a water-based law material of extremely high grade. Lin Moyu examined it for a moment and roughly made a judgment, I don't know which little god Venerable's thing it is. To be able to survive in the swamp for thousands of years without being destroyed, it's a good thing. He felt that the grade of this crystal was no less than that of a god Venerable realm material, but now the crystal was polluted by the flesh and blood mud, making it no longer pure. If he wanted to use it, he would need to remove the impurities inside. First, he put away the crystal, and Lin Moyu flew into the sky again. Looking down at the earth from the sky, the ape monsters were wandering on the ground. The undead knights could no longer continue to explore the path, so Lin Moyu had the undead knights sprint towards the periphery to explore the path. And he flew towards the core area. With the ability to fly, even without the death knights, he could find other swamps. Lin Moyu discovered that as long as he didn't focus on the ape monsters on the ground, the ape monsters wouldn't notice him either, let alone attack him. These monsters were cursed, and after death, they remained here, becoming beings that were neither alive nor dead, unable to leave for eternity. The undead flames killed their bodies and devoured all vitality. The curse erased the sanity in their souls, turning them into mindless monsters that only knew how to kill. This kind of curse was more terrifying than death. But in war, anything goes. Lin Moyu had also experienced war and felt that this kind of method was normal. Soon, another swamp appeared in his sight, and Lin Moyu immediately flew towards the center of the swamp. He activated the tombstone, colored the inscription, and completed it in one go. Soon Lin Moyu once again enjoyed a brilliant and extremely cruel battle. Even after watching it many times, each time it deeply shocked Lin Moyu. Unfortunately, this time the tombstone of the 92nd Squad didn't bring more information, and the picture also ended abruptly there. Again and again, it always ended at the most exciting moment. Damn cliffhanger. Lin Moyu cursed in his heart and continued searching. Swamp after swamp, tombstone after tombstone, Lin Moyu found several more, but he still didn't see more pictures. Looking at the tombstone of the 99th Squad in front of him, Lin Moyu couldn't help but mutter to himself, there's only one left. In the picture, he clearly saw that there were a total of 100 squads returning, forming 100 flesh and blood tombs, which were also 100 swamps. Now he had found the 99th one, and there was only one left. Distinguishing the direction, Lin Moyu flew towards the last tombstone. It had been 6 days since he entered the Nether Swamp. With the continuous exploration of a large number of undead knights, the terrain of the Nether Swamp was extremely complete, and Lin Moyu could clearly determine the location of the tombstone of the 100th Squad. Soon, the last tombstone was also found by him. Shu Qingyang, will you be here? Lin Moyu began to paint the words while saying lightly. Along the way, although he hadn't searched all 100 tombstones in the Nether Swamp, he had searched half of them. And according to his judgment, the little god Venerable should have gone very deep inside back then. He must have fought against those ape monsters. The little god Venerable's strength was stronger than the ape monsters, and with the cooperation of many people, they could definitely break in. Shu Qingyang was also one of the best among the many little god Venerables, so it was not surprising that he could get here. He hadn't found Shu Qingyang all this time. If Shu Qingyang was really still alive, there was a high chance he would be here. Soon the inscription was stained with black and red blood, and Lin Moyu once again admired the ancient war. Unfortunately, there were still no follow-up pictures, and there was no difference from the previous ones. Everything ended after the ape monster lost its vitality. Lin Moyu couldn't help but start to doubt his own speculation. Could it be that my speculation was wrong, and there are no complete images? But the great battle back then clearly hadn't ended. What exactly happened later? Lin Moyu was extremely curious. The red light faded, the black and red blood receded, revealing the blood-mud ground. A green soul orb appeared in his sight. Lin Moyu's eyes lit up, and he absorbed the soul orb into his hand. He clearly saw that within the soul orb, there was a soul sleeping. The soul was a young human man, and the essence of the soul was already extremely solidified, indicating that he was extraordinary in strength. The soul had already transformed into jade, indicating that the soul had reached the 4th grade. A 4th grade soul possessed the qualifications to enter the God Venerable world. Shu Qingyang. With just one glance, Lin Moyu determined his identity. It was Shu Qingyang whom he was looking for. Lin Moyu couldn't help but sigh that this guy's life was really big, and the quality of the soul orb was good enough, and the grade was high enough. This soul orb was at least of the God Venerable realm grade, and it was also thanks to the protection of the soul orb that he was able to survive until now. Shu Qingyang was sleeping, after losing his physical body. To maintain the existence of the soul for a long time, sleeping was a good method. This could greatly reduce the consumption of soul power. Lin Moyu gently tapped the soul orb. Wake up. His voice echoed continuously in the world of the soul orb. After several calls, after more than 10 seconds, Shu Qingyang's soul finally reacted. First, his finger moved, and then the aura of the soul began to rise. After waiting for another 10 seconds, Shu Qingyang finally opened his eyes. A long period of sleep made his eyes confused. After waiting for a while, the confusion faded away, and Shu Qingyang truly woke up. All the memories rose in the soul, and Shu Qingyang knew what had happened to him and why he was sleeping. Through the soul orb, he saw Lin Moyu. Seeing that he was a human, Shu Qingyang obviously breathed a sigh of relief. Senior, are you here to save me? Shu Qingyang called him senior as soon as he opened his mouth, very politely. Lin Moyu chuckled, could you be senior brother Shu Qingyang? Shu Qingyang nodded instinctively. This junior is indeed Shu Qingyang. He was a little strange. Why did this senior call himself senior brother? To be able to come here and rescue himself, his strength must be extremely powerful, at least a God Venerable. Hearing Shu Qingyang admit it, Lin Moyu then said, it's good that you are senior brother Shu. My name is Lin Moyu, and I was entrusted by Senior Zhu Qiwu to come and save senior brother Shu. Shu Qingyang knew Zhu Qiwu, that was a powerful God Venerable. Before he entered the Yellow Earth Desert, Zhu Qiwu was already a 9th order God Venerable, and now he should be even more powerful. Maybe he had already broken through the God Venerable realm. Shu Qingyang said, so it was Senior Zhu who asked Senior Lin to save this junior. 2.1 Stop. Lin Moyu interrupted Shu Qingyang's words. What senior and junior? Lin Moyu's head hurt from hearing it. My cultivation is not as high as senior brother Shu. Senior brother Shu can just call me junior brother Lin. Shu Qingyang seemed a little unbelieving, but he didn't refute it, and agreed in Lin Moyu's sincere eyes. Then thank you junior brother Lin for saving me. Lin Moyu shook his head. Let's not talk about these. Senior brother Shu, do you know how we can leave? Hearing Lin Moyu's words, Shu Qingyang's face changed, and his whole soul twisted. Seeing this, Lin Moyu's heart skipped a beat at the same time, and he had a bad feeling. Shu Qingyang smiled bitterly. Actually, I don't know how to leave either. Damn it, Lin Moyu had the urge to curse in his heart. Isn't this a trap? You can get in but you can't get out. How can you play this? Shu Qingyang suddenly said, perhaps, only there can we leave. Shu Qingyang's words made Lin Moyu's spirit shake. Shu Qingyang should know something. Shu Qingyang seemed to be lost in memories. At that time, 23 of us, the little god tiers, entered this place and walked all the way to the end without any obstacles. Because we didn't encounter any danger, some of us relaxed our vigilance until we met those guys. Those guys were very perceptive and quickly noticed us, launching an attack against us. His tone carried a hint of solemnity. Lin Moyu knew that the guys Shu Qingyang was talking about were the ape monsters. However, with the battle power of a little god tier, especially with 23 of them, even facing thousands of ape monsters, there was no need to worry. At most, it would just take a little effort to clean up. The ape monsters shouldn't be able to hurt them. But listening to Shu Qingyang's words, it didn't seem to be the case. Shu Qingyang's voice sounded again after a few seconds of pause. Their strength is very strong, higher than the 9th rank of the God King, but a little bit weaker than us. We had 23 people, all little god tiers, and originally thought it wouldn't be a problem to deal with them. So we killed our way in 03, getting deeper and deeper. But those guys seemed like they couldn't be killed. More and more, we killed and killed, but we couldn't kill them all. When we reacted, we were already deeply surrounded. At that time, our power had been consumed a lot, and some people had already begun to run out of strength. So we changed our strategy. Half of the people rested, and half of the people carried out defensive attacks. But, Speaking of this, Shu Qingyang fell silent again, his tone becoming more solemn. If his physical body was still there, he should be frowning tightly now. Lin Moyu felt that having half the people defend and half the people rest was not a good idea. With half the number of defenders, the consumption would inevitably increase exponentially, and when they rested, the recovery time would also increase significantly. In this way, it might not achieve the desired effect, and might even backfire. After a few seconds of pause, Shu Qingyang reorganized his language and continued, but we found that this approach was not correct, but would greatly increase consumption, even worse than before. So we decided to break through, but at that time, for some reason, a layer of fog suddenly covered the sky and the earth, and we lost our direction. At the same time, even more powerful monsters appeared. A dozen monsters at the little god tier realm rushed over and broke our defense. We were scattered and fled in all directions. I couldn't tell the direction at the time, so I randomly found a direction to break through. Maybe I was unlucky, I chose the wrong direction, and more monsters chased me. The fog was in clumps, not everywhere. Sometimes I would leave the fog, but I still couldn't recognize the direction. In the end, I escaped into a swamp. Strangely, after I escaped into the swamp, those monsters stopped chasing me. But a lot of rotting corpses appeared in the swamp, and it seemed like something in the swamp was trying to suck me in. Because of the fog, I lost my direction again in the swamp, and the suction in the swamp became stronger and stronger, eventually reaching a point where I couldn't resist. I finally fell in, and my body was corroded by the swamp and began to rot. I tried hard to hold on, hoping to last a little longer. Finally, the fog dissipated, and I saw a stone tablet. At that time, my body had completely collapsed, so I entrusted my soul to the soul orb and sent the soul orb to the stone tablet. Shu Qingyang recounted the entire process with bad memories. For anyone, recalling the process of their own death is not a pleasant thing. Connecting it with the ancient picture seen in the tombstone, Lin Moyu finally knew the cause and effect. The number of ape monsters that entered the nether swamp that year was astonishing, no less than 100,000. But what he had just seen was not that many. The arrival of Shu Qingyang and others should have killed a lot of ape monsters, causing the number of ape monsters to drop sharply. Then, over the long years, the rotting corpses in the swamp would come out from time to time and fight with the ape monsters. But because the number of ape monsters decreased, with the ebb and flow, the number of ape monsters further decreased over the years, turning into the appearance he had just seen. But what Shu Qingyang said, that place where it might be possible to leave the nether swamp, where is it? Shu Qingyang's description just now did not specify that place. Lin Moyu was not in a hurry, quietly waiting for Shu Qingyang's answer. He had already discovered that Shu Qingyang was very talkative. Maybe he hadn't spoken for thousands of years, so he would talk non-stop, or maybe it was just his nature. Sure enough, after waiting for a while, Shu Qingyang spoke again. During the period of being chased, in the gaps of crossing the fog, I saw a different place. I saw a giant stone tablet. The stone tablet was at least 10,000 meters high, the top was covered with fog, I couldn't see the exact height, maybe it was more than 10,000 meters. If you want to leave the nether swamp, maybe you can go there and take a look. Lin Moyu asked, Senior Brother Shu, do you still remember the exact location of that giant stone tablet? Shu Qingyang shook his head, I don't remember, I was running for my life at the time, and there was fog interference, in fact, I was already lost. Lin Moyu summarized Shu Qingyang's words. From his description, it can be seen that there are three kinds of dangers here. The first is the ape monsters. The ape monsters are not only large in number, but also have little god-tier realm ones among them, and there is more than one. The second is the swamp. There are rotting corpses in the swamp, and the swamp will corrode flesh and blood. Once trapped in it, even a little god-tier can hardly escape. The third is the fog. Once the fog appears, the sense of direction will disappear, and it is easy to get lost in it. Even if you are not careful, you will fall into the encirclement of the ape monsters, or even enter the swamp. Lin Moyu had not encountered the fog yet, so it was hard to say. Because he can fly here, the first two dangers have little impact on him. Lin Moyu knew what he should do, find that giant stone tablet that is more than 10,000 meters high, and see if he can find a way to leave. His mission in the nether swamp has been completed, Shu Qingyang has been found, and now what he has to do is to take Shu Qingyang out and hand the soul orb to Zhu Qiwu. It seems that I can only find it myself, but it shouldn't be too far. At this time, the map in his mind is already very complete, and more than 80% of the area in the Nether Swamp has been explored. Lin Moyu doesn't need to go back to find it, he can just continue to search deeper. Just as Lin Moyu was preparing to move, a layer of faint fog appeared in his line of sight. The fog came out of nowhere and quickly enveloped a large area. Xu Qingyang said, "It's this kind of fog, it can block the sensing power of the soul, and you can't tell the direction in the fog." Lin Moyu gave a hum, his body rose directly, flying towards the high altitude. Xu Qingyang in the soul orb let out an incredible scream, "Junior brother Lin, how can you fly?" Lin Moyu said, "This is my ability." Xu Qingyang did not doubt Lin Moyu's words, but sighed, "If we could fly at that time, it wouldn't have been so dangerous." Junior brother Lin, how long have I been trapped here? Chapter 1376, The Gentle Princess of the Starry Sky Fish People. Lin Moyu flew to tens of thousands of meters in the sky, but the fog did not dissipate. The fog connected the sky and the earth, no matter how high you flew, it was useless. Lin Moyu simply stopped searching and waited for the fog to dissipate. It's been about 1,000 years. Xu Qingyang sighed, "It's been so long, time really flies, I didn't expect I slept for so long." "Are you sleeping? This is forced sleep, okay." Lin Moyu felt that Xu Qingyang was a big-hearted person, and seemed to take life and death lightly. Zhu Qiwu said that Xu Qingyang's background was not simple, otherwise he wouldn't have let himself risk coming in to save people. "A place where even a little god tier can be trapped to death, there must be danger if I come in." But even so, Zhu Qiwu still let himself come. Maybe Zhu Qiwu didn't know the situation inside, or maybe it was the meaning of the big shots above. Xu Qingyang was indeed talkative. "Junior brother Lin, when we 23 little god tiers entered together, how many people eventually went out?" Lin Moyu said, "As far as I know, no one went out." Xu Qingyang seemed to have guessed the answer long ago, and couldn't help but sigh. The rules of chaos are indeed dangerous, but in the process of cultivation, who can have a smooth journey? Lin Moyu asked, "What races did the little god tiers who came in with senior brother Xu belong to?" Xu Qingyang recalled, "There are Sand Race, Starry Sky Fish People Race, Buddhist Race, Bull Demon Race." Sure enough, there is the Starry Sky Fish People Race. Lin Moyu thought of the small box he got. The box contained a beautiful small sword. He judged at the time that it was an item of the Starry Sky Fish People Race, and now it has been confirmed. However, there is no demon race among these little god tiers. According to Xu Qingyang, there was a demon race who came in at that time, and besides the demon race, there was also a golden eagle race little god tier. But they didn't enter the Nether Swamp, they were killed by him in the lowest desert. Xu Qingyang is very strong. Among the little god sovereigns, he belongs to the top tier, only half a step away from a true god sovereign. Lin Mo didn't find it strange that he could kill the little god sovereigns of the demon and golden eagle races. Xu Qingyang sighed again, "I didn't expect that one from the Starry Sky Fish human race would also be trapped here." Lin Mo was a little strange. Why did Xu Qingyang suddenly mention the Starry Sky Fish human race, instead of mentioning other races? Could it be that the little god sovereign of the Starry Sky Fish human race had something unique about them? Does that one from the Starry Sky Fish human race have anything special about them? Anyway, the fog hadn't dissipated yet, so Lin Mo didn't mind chatting with Xu Qingyang for a while. Perhaps he could get a lot of useful information from him. Xu Qingyang said with emotion, "The Starry Sky Fish human race member who came in with us has an extraordinary status within the race, controlling the law of space." Lin Mo was slightly stunned. Yu Qingru also controlled the law of space. The Starry Sky Fish human race is actually very similar to the human race, similar in appearance and preferences. If you don't carefully distinguish them, it's almost impossible to tell the difference. Only in terms of cultivating laws do the two races differ. The human race has a large population, and they dabble in all kinds of laws, encompassing almost everything. However, the Starry Sky Fish human race mainly focuses on water-based laws and starry sky laws. In addition to this, the Starry Sky Fish human race has a special characteristic. Every once in a while, a controller of the law of space will appear within their race. This is the bloodline inheritance of the Starry Sky Fish human race. Once the bloodline awakens, they can naturally master the law of space without deliberately comprehending it. The law of space is a first-tier law, and how difficult it is to comprehend a first-tier law is much harder than becoming a god sovereign. The human race has over 1 trillion people, but there are not many who control first-tier laws. Especially laws like the law of space, which rank at the top of the first tier, are even unheard of. Lin Mo had personally experienced Yu Qingru's law of space, and even he was a little envious. Xu Qingyang sighed again at this time. That Princess Ru was peerless and had unparalleled talent. Controlling the law of space, she could come and go freely, unstoppable. I originally thought that even if everyone else died, she should be able to escape, but I didn't expect this. Hearing the words, Princess Ru, Lin Mo couldn't help but ask, is Princess Ru her name? Xu Qingyang shook his head. Princess Ru is what we call her. Her real name is Yu Qingru, and she is a princess of the starry sky fish human race. A huge wave surged in Lin Mo's heart, and his expression became very strange. Yu Qingru is also called Yu Qingru. Is it just the same name? That Princess Ru is a little god sovereign, while the Yu Qingru I saw wasn't even a god king. The two are too far apart. Lin Mo guessed if it was just the same name. If they had the chance to meet again in the future, perhaps he could ask. It's a pity, such a peerless woman actually fell here. Xu Qingyang seemed to be still immersed in his memories, not noticing the change in Lin Mo's expression. A loud noise suddenly rang out in the distance, and a huge law ripple spread over. Afterwards, Lin Mo saw a red light light up from the fog. Although the fog blocked his vision, he could still tell that the light came from a tombstone. After watching the ancient images time and time again, Lin Mo was already very familiar with the red light of the tombstone. The roaring sound became more and more intense, indicating that the battle in the fog was also becoming more intense. Lin Mo guessed that this battle should be a battle between the ape-like monster and the first army group. Such battles have been going on for countless years. Xu Qingyang said, it's starting again. When I was falling asleep, I was awakened several times, and I could hear similar sounds every time. Lin Mo didn't pay attention to Xu Qingyang's words, but carefully distinguished the direction of the sound. The fog hindered the propagation of the sound, and it sounded like it was coming from all directions. But Lin Mo still roughly locked onto the direction. He felt that that should be the place he was going to go. The roaring sound lasted for a long time before gradually stopping. The battle stopped, and as the battle stopped, the fog gradually dissipated. Standing high in the sky overlooking the swamp, the earth, and the ape-like monsters below re-entered his sight. Lin Mo immediately flew towards the source of the sound he had just heard. A stream of light streaked across the gray sky, at an extremely fast speed. Here, if one cannot fly, they will face the pursuit of countless ape-like monsters. Even little god sovereigns will find it difficult to move an inch. But once one can fly, it's like walking on flat ground, without any danger. The only thing to pay attention to is not to look at the ape-like monsters, otherwise they will notice you and be attacked. More than 10 minutes later, a huge stone tablet came into view. The stone tablet was extremely huge, with a width of 5,000 meters and a height of far more than 10,000 meters. It stood between heaven and earth, like a sea-stabilizing needle, like a pillar supporting the sky, making people marvel. Xu Qingyang murmured, it's so big, I underestimated it before. Of course, he underestimated it. He had only vaguely seen it at the time, and he was being chased and killed on the ground, so naturally he couldn't see clearly. Lin Mo ignored Xu Qingyang's exclamation and stayed 10,000 meters away from the stone tablet to observe. At the foot of the stone tablet, also 10,000 meters away, a group of ape-like monsters were wandering. These ape-like monsters were larger than the ones he had seen before, and their aura was even stronger. They were the ape-like monsters in the little god sovereign realm that Xu Qingyang had mentioned. Lin Mo only glanced at them and stopped looking. Looking at them too much would be dangerous. On the huge stone tablet, a line of large characters was engraved. Tomb of Yu Yi, Corps Commander of the Netherworld Legion, 1st Army Group. Chapter 1377, Misjudged, not a buffoon, but an idiot. It turned out to be the tomb of the Corps Commander. Lin Mo thought of the heroic spirit of the general he had seen time and time again in the ancient images. That general sacrificed himself, leading his brothers back, leaving a glimmer of hope for the future. That general even wielded the undying flame, cast a curse, and killed countless pursuing enemies, making them suffer more than death, unable to escape for eternity. The heroic figure of that general left an indelible impression in Lin Mo's heart. Since every squad has a tomb and a tombstone, as the Corps Commander, it was natural for him to have his own tombstone. When he saw the words on the tombstone, Lin Mo knew what he should do. At this time, Xu Qingyang sighed, Such a big stone tablet, with only a few words written on it, what is it used for? Lin Mo was slightly stunned. Only then did he realize that Xu Qingyang didn't recognize the inscriptions on it. No wonder he kept saying, stone tablet, stone tablet. He didn't recognize the inscriptions, and he hadn't colored them, so he didn't know that it was actually a tombstone. The words on the tombstone were called primordial ancient script by that mysterious person, and they were not quite the same as the words of the human race. If one hadn't specifically studied the primordial ancient script, they would only be able to recognize a few words at most. Just like Xu Qingyang could recognize the character, Yu Yi's, he didn't recognize the other characters. Lin Mo didn't explain much and flew directly towards the tombstone. In Xu Qingyang's confused eyes, Lin Mo activated the tombstone. The tombstone shook violently, and countless black and red blood emerged from the ground beneath the tombstone. In that instant, the originally silent ape-like monsters raised their heads, and a powerful and brutal aura arose. The tombstone buzzed, erupting with powerful force, pushing all the nearby ape-like monsters away, preventing them from approaching. More and more black and red blood emerged from the ground. Lin Mo immediately absorbed a large amount of blood and used his finger as a pen to color the inscriptions. Xu Qingyang was extremely surprised. "Junior brother Lin, what are you doing?" Lin Mo said, activating this stone tablet. Xu Qingyang was surprised. "Can we find a way out like this?" "Perhaps. Junior brother Lin, how did you think of this? You're so smart." Xu Qingyang's flattery was not as straightforward as Qian Duo's. Lin Mo suddenly realized that this guy wasn't just talkative, but an idiot. Without saying more, Lin Mo continued to color the words. These characters were too big, and it would take a lot of time to color them. During this time, the ape-like monsters that had been pushed away came over like crazy. But without exception, they were all pushed away by an irresistible force, unable to break through. Xu Qingyang said, somewhat strangely, "These guys seem to be in a hurry." Lin Moyu was fully focused at this moment and had no time to pay attention to Xu Qingyang. Xu Qingyang continued his one-man show. "Why are they in such a hurry for no reason? What exactly did the Great Stone Tablet do? Why have they become like this? They were clearly motionless just now, it's really strange." Black and red blood was continuously absorbed and smeared onto the inscriptions. Each time an inscription was painted, the tombstone would vibrate violently, and the ape-like monsters would become even more frantic and anxious. Xu Qingyang's tone changed. "These guys are even more insane. What exactly did junior brother Lin do? I feel like an supreme consciousness is awakening. What terrifying power, what level of expert is this?" Xu Qingyang felt it, and Lin Moyu also felt it. Lin Moyu felt that as he continued to color the words, there was indeed a powerful consciousness awakening within the tombstone. It was the consciousness of the general spirit, the consciousness of the Legion commander, Yu Yi. But now Lin Moyu couldn't stop. If he stopped, he might be antagonized by the entire Nether Swamp. Once he lost the right to fly, not to mention the Nether Swamp, even those ape-like monsters on the ground would tear him to pieces. Lin Moyu could only continue coloring, going all the way down the dark path. The ape-like monsters finally discovered Lin Moyu. They raised their war blades, and terrifying attacks struck towards Lin Moyu. Xu Qingyang cried out, "Be careful." Lin Moyu didn't move at all. He couldn't dodge at all now and could only endure it. As the attacks approached, a red light suddenly burst out from the tombstone, enveloping Lin Moyu. The ape-like monsters' attacks landed on Lin Moyu, like a clay ox entering the sea, without causing the slightest ripple. Xu Qingyang finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Goodness, you scared me to death." The ape-like monsters continued to attack incessantly, but to no avail. All attacks were blocked by a thin layer of red light. Xu Qingyang laughed loudly. "Come on, come again. I'm right here, you can hit me as much as you like. If I dodge, I'll admit defeat." Xu Qingyang shouted arrogantly, as if to avenge the chase he suffered 1,000 years ago. "I misjudged him. He's not just a clown, he's also an idiot." Lin Moyu thought in his heart, feeling somewhat helpless, and could only let him be. One by one, the inscriptions were colored, emitting a black and red light that looked somewhat glaring. The great consciousness in the tombstone became clearer and stronger. The undead flames in the sky also seemed to become dimmer and burned more fiercely. When Lin Moyu finished coloring the last word and completed the last stroke, the entire tombstone suddenly burst out with a strong red light, and a beam of light shot out from the tombstone, instantly dyeing the entire Nether Swamp red. The nether swamp was completely plunged into a red world, and even the grey light of the undead flames was replaced by the red glow at this moment. Subsequently, a terrifying and immense power fell from the sky, like a large hand pressing down on the entire nether swamp. Shu Qingyang, who was talking just a second ago, rolled his eyes and fainted directly, losing consciousness. The ape-like monsters on the ground collectively fell to the ground, losing their movement. The little bright King Bodhisattva, Black Sand God King, and Erosion Earth God King in the distance simultaneously looked towards the sky. With the awakening of that great consciousness, they collectively lost consciousness and fell into a coma like Shu Qingyang. In an instant, the entire nether swamp fell into silence. The only one who could remain clear-headed was Lin Moyu. A grand and magnificent ancient image unfolded in Lin Moyu's eyes, with the entire nether swamp as the background. Lin Moyu's consciousness also changed from this moment. He seemed to have turned into the undead flames burning in the sky, overlooking the earth, with the situation in the entire nether swamp in full view. Lin Moyu was immersed in the scene, as if he was personally experiencing that grand war. In the picture, the sky above the nether swamp was torn open by a huge crack, and the ape-like monster forcibly broke in. 100 tombstones exerted their power simultaneously, transforming into a blood-red great blade, and beheading the ape's head with a single strike. Previously, Lin Moyu could still marvel at the power of this blade, capable of instantly killing such a powerful expert. But now, from a different perspective, he truly saw that this strike had exhausted all their strength. For this strike, the last vitality of the 100 squads was almost exhausted. Fortunately, after the ape died, its blood turned into new nourishment, providing sustenance for the graves of the 100 squads. But the 100 squads could no longer unleash a second strike. Subsequently, countless ape-like monsters rushed in. The Legion commander named Yi, relying on his soul, issued a curse, cursing all invaders. I curse you, your flesh and blood will turn into nourishment, you will forever remain here, neither alive nor dead. Chapter 1378. The history belonging to the nether swamp. Along with the soul-penetrating sound of the curse, the ape monsters that entered the nether swamp died one after another. All their power, essence, and laws were drained, turning them into dried corpses. At this time, Lin Moyu also saw some scenes that he couldn't see before. Beneath the nether swamp, or rather, on the other side of the land of the nether swamp, countless yellow sands appeared out of thin air and began to accumulate. Lin Moyu suddenly understood the origin of the Yellow Earth Desert. Initially, the Yellow Earth Desert did not exist. The Yellow Earth Desert was formed by the laws, essence, and life of these ape-like monsters. Everything of the ape monsters turned into yellow sand under the curse. The yellow sand changed, evolving into earth laws, stone-like laws, and also gathering some laws from the void. But the battle was not over. After casting the curse, Legion Commander Yi had become extremely weak, and his soul was almost collapsing. The curse came at a price. Even if the nether swamp was his home field, he had to pay a corresponding price. After the curse, new enemies rushed in. The second batch of enemies that came in were not many in number, also ape-like monsters, also wearing heavy armor, but they were stronger. Lin Moyu guessed that the second batch of ape-like monsters that rushed in were the monsters who ultimately remained, reaching the little god Venerate realm. But what attracted Lin Moyu's attention was not these armored apes, but the great sun above their heads. The great sun burned with raging flames, incomparably scorching. Within the great sun, Lin Moyu also faintly heard the sound of chanting. The Buddhist clan. Lin Moyu was stunned for a moment. How could there be a shadow of the Buddhist clan in the wars of the ancient times? These two things are totally unrelated. He had seen the relevant information about the Buddhist clan in the information, knowing that the Buddhist clan only appeared in this era. Even in the ancient times, before Xiao Zontian was born, there was no figure of the Buddhist clan in the great world. But in the more distant ancient times, he actually heard the voice of the Buddhist clan. The flames in the great sun not only brought heat, but also brought the power of purification. The curse was ineffective against them. Under the scorching flames, the temperature of the nether swamp rose sharply, and cracks appeared in the tombstones of the 100 squads, and some tombstones even rose with flames. This round of the great sun was too strong. It burned not flames at all, but laws. Even the indestructible tombstones would be melted by the laws. At this time, Commander Yi once again issued a roar. His voice resounded throughout the nether swamp. Great Master, please descend boundless fury and destroy the ants who despise you. This voice was not like a curse, but it was very useful. The undead flames that had been hanging in the sky suddenly moved. The former undead flames only illuminated the heavens and the earth, slowly and harmoniously radiating its power. But now it really moved, it became violent in an instant. The undead flames turned into a grey fire dragon, and instantly flew to the great sun and wrapped it up. The great sun struggled frantically, and the chanting became heavier. The great sun seemed to be afraid of the undead flames. Then the grey fire dragon transformed from the undead flames, twisted hard, and the great sun was twisted to pieces and exploded into pieces. The grey fire dragon opened its mouth and swallowed all the fragments into its belly, and then spit it out. 9 fireballs flew out in response, passing through the land of the Nether Marsh and landing on the newly formed Lowest Desert, turning into 9 fireballs hanging in the sky. So that's how the fireballs in the Lowest Desert came to be. Only then did Lin Mo understand the origin of the 9 fireballs, and at the same time, he understood some other things. After the undying flame shattered the great sun, it did not return to the sky but rushed towards the torn crack. It seemed very dissatisfied with this crack, roaring at it incessantly, and spewing out clumps of grey flames to envelop it. The crack in the flames closed again, and the Nether Marsh returned to being a complete world. Legion Commander Yui issued a curse again, cursing the second batch of enemies who entered. In the midst of the curse, the second batch of enemies who entered had their essence, blood and laws completely drained, and everything about them turned into Lowest Desert. A great battle finally came to an end, and Lin Mo, as an observer, couldn't help but let out a sigh. Although the First Legion was defeated, it was not a complete defeat. The First Legion still had a chance, waiting for their master to return. The last scene of the First Legion fighting was deeply imprinted in Lin Mo's soul, and could no longer be erased. The tombstones under the scorching sun were slowly being repaired, with the outermost tombstones suffering the most damage. The deeper the tombstones were, the less damage they sustained. This also caused the images they recorded to be different, and some records had been destroyed at the time. Only Legion Commander Yui's tombstone recorded the complete process. After this battle, Lin Mo finally understood the cause and effect and knew the origin of the Nether Marsh. It had existed since ancient times, and after experiencing war, it remained indestructible. It was recovering, waiting for its master to return. Lin Mo was horrified, he could not imagine how strong the master that Legion Commander Yui spoke of could be. Combining his own experience, Lin Mo felt that the master in Legion Commander Yui's words, the master in the mysterious Manor Castle Lord's words, and the master in the ancient Tomb General's words should be the same person. A strong man with an incredibly powerful army and unimaginable strength. But the video did not end there and continued. Lin Mo's consciousness had not yet returned and was still overlooking the earth. The Nether Marsh fell into silence, and the undying flame returned to its normal form, continuing to radiate the earth. Under its illumination, the severely damaged swamp was slowly recovering. Legion Commander Yui also returned to his tomb. Lin Mo's heart seemed to sink with the entire Nether Marsh. He fell into a drowsy and peculiar state, in which he did not know the passage of time. I don't know how long it took, but the sound of metal friction woke Lin Mo up. His awakening seemed to drive the awakening of the entire Nether Marsh. The originally dead ape monsters revived, stood up, and wandered on the earth. 0. The corpses in the swamp also revived, and the corpses and ape monsters were mortal enemies, and a series of great battles broke out between them, endless and without end. The ape monsters after death, under the illumination of the undying flame, rekindled the fire of their souls, but without consciousness, only the last instinct remained, becoming puppets who only knew how to fight. The battles between the ape monsters and the corpses were mostly inconclusive, but this was after all the corpses' home field. Over the years, the number of apes has gradually decreased, but the speed of this decrease is very slow. It would take countless years for the corpses to kill all the ape monsters. Time passed in this way, and the great battles continued. Under the Nether Marsh, countless monsters appeared in the Lowest Desert. The Lowest Desert was produced based on the essence, blood, laws, and consciousness of the ape monsters. All kinds of things in it contained the subconscious of the ape monsters. Under the combination of countless reasons, the Lowest Desert had its own rules. Until one day, a group of people broke into the Lowest Desert, passed through the levels and defeated the generals all the way, and finally came to the Nether Marsh. They went deep into the Nether Marsh and fought fiercely with the ape monsters. These people were the 23 minor divine venerables, including Shu Qingyang. A large number of ape monsters were killed by them, and finally attracted the ape monsters of the minor divine venerable realm, and they were beaten and fled in panic. These minor divine venerables basically died, and there were no survivors. Only a few escaped the pursuit of the ape monsters. But they eventually died in the swamp. Xu Qingyang was a very lucky one among them, and the soul orb he carried was of a very high grade, blocking the overlooking of the swamp. It's her. In this series of images, Lin Mo saw a person, Yu Qingru. Next. Chapter 1379. Clear grudges, collect some interest first. Lin Mo knew that he would not be mistaken, it was really Yu Qingru. Whether it was her demeanor, appearance, or even temperament, they were all exactly the same as Yu Qingru. In Xu Qingyang's mouth, this Yu Qingru was called Princess Ru, and her strength was quite powerful, escaping the pursuit of the ape monsters again and again. But when everyone died and more ape monsters surrounded and intercepted them, coupled with the interference of the fog, she was helpless. In the end, she, like many people, fled into the swamp, came to the center of the swamp, and found the tombstone. Lin Mo knew that the reason why she was so embarrassed was because the nether marsh restricted her spatial laws and also restricted flying. Otherwise, no matter how many ape monsters there were, they would not be able to catch her. Spatial laws allow you to come and go freely, without a trace, and are almost impossible to kill. Coming to this kind of ghost place can only be considered Yu Qingru's bad luck. Princess Ru did not sit still at the tombstone. She took out her jade box and sacrificed the small sword from the jade box. The small sword was very, 607, powerful, bursting out with amazing power, almost tearing the space. Princess Ru drilled into the space torn by the small sword and disappeared. After Princess Ru left, the small sword returned to the box and landed at the foot of the tombstone. She's not dead, she finally escaped. Lin Mo murmured in his heart, Princess Ru is not dead, but what's going on with Yu Qingru? Princess Ru is a minor divine venerable, and Yu Qingru is only a true god 9th rank, the two are very different. Could it be that an accident happened during the escape? Apart from that, Lin Mo couldn't think of any other reason. He could be sure that the Princess Ru in the image and the Yu Qingru he encountered were the same person. There are similar people in the world, but exactly the same people are rare. Even if there is 99.99 points of similarity, in front of a true god 9th rank powerhouse, the 0.01 points of difference can be seen. In the image, Lin Mo saw the minor divine venerable of the Sand clan. He really died and disappeared, leaving nothing behind. The Buddha clan escaped relatively far, escaping to the swamp of the 71st team before dying, and did leave something behind, which was a Buddha statue. The swamp of the 71st team also happened to be the one he had not searched. However, looking at the current progress of Little Bright King Bodhisattva, it is very likely that it will not be found. Little Bright King Bodhisattva did not dare to enter the center of the swamp at all, and it would be useless to search for another 1,000 years. If he was unlucky and attracted the ape monsters, he might die and disappear. The scene in front of him disappeared, and his consciousness returned to his body. At the same time, a message came, and Lin Mo knew how to leave. There are two ways to leave. One is that every 100 years, an exit will appear in the sky. Through the gap, you can leave the nether marsh and directly return to the great world. This gap is also the wound left by the great battle that year, and it has not healed for many years. Even if you can't fly here, with the ability of a minor divine venerable, jumping tens of thousands of meters and drilling into the exit is not a problem. The second method is through the graves of the Legion commanders. Because Lin Mo colored the inscriptions on the tombstones, he indirectly gained their approval, allowing him to open the passage inside the tombstones and return to the Yellow Sand Desert. Then, he can return to the Great World through the Yellow Sand Desert. Lin Mo would naturally not wait for decades, he would definitely choose the passage inside the tombstones. But now, besides him, there are 3 other guys who are unconscious in the nether swamp. After thinking for a few seconds, Lin Mo already had a plan in mind. He put away Xu Qingyang's soul orb, the Lightspeed Lich appeared on his shoulder, and he transformed into a stream of light, flying into the distance. First, he arrived at the tombstone of the 71st Squad, quickly activated the tombstone, and rapidly colored the inscriptions. In just a few minutes, he had a Buddha statue in his hand. The Buddha statue emitted Buddhist light, still bright even after being corroded by the swamp for thousands of years. This is indeed a good thing, consider it interest. Lin Mo immediately put it away without saying a word. Previously, Kangwon Buddha wanted to kill him, and although he was counter-killed, the Buddhist clan still owed him a blood debt. The human race's experts stood up for him, that was the human race's business, but this debt would be collected by him sooner or later. Now, he would collect some interest first. As for Little Bright King Bodhisattva, although Lin Mo didn't like the Buddhist clan, brothers should settle accounts separately. Little Bright King Bodhisattva didn't harm him, and they even had a brief cooperation. So, Lin Mo didn't plan to leave him here. He knew that if Little Bright King Bodhisattva continued to search here, he wouldn't last for decades, until the next exit opened. Based on the location he just saw, Lin Mo quickly found the unconscious Little Bright King Bodhisattva and the other two. Laws intertwined into ropes, dragging the three into the high sky, and smoothly brought them to the Legion commander's tombstone. After putting the three down, Lin Mo quietly waited on the side. About a day later, Little Bright King Bodhisattva was the first to wake up. Little Bright King Bodhisattva's eyes quickly regained clarity, and he looked around vigilantly. He was slightly relieved after seeing Lin Mo. Amitabha, Little Bright King Bodhisattva announced a Buddha's name, concealing a trace of unease in his heart. The irresistible power just now gave him a sense of powerlessness. Little Bright King Bodhisattva had never felt this level of power even from the Buddha. That power was too strong, so strong that he couldn't resist it at all, feeling like he was an ant that could be easily crushed. After calming down a bit, Little Bright King Bodhisattva said, "So it was Taoist Lin who saved this monk." Lin Mo didn't deny it, just a small effort. In a sense, he did save Little Bright King Bodhisattva. If he had left him alone, Little Bright King Bodhisattva would have definitely died. Little Bright King Bodhisattva wasn't one to procrastinate, and immediately said, "This kindness this monk will remember, and will definitely repay it if there is a chance in the future." Lin Mo smiled, not taking it seriously. Little Bright King Bodhisattva then asked, "Taoist Lin, may I ask where this place is?" Lin Mo glanced at Black Sand God King and Erosion Earth God King, who were still unconscious on the side. "Let's wait for the two Taoists to wake up before talking. It's enough to say it twice." Little Bright King Bodhisattva nodded and didn't press the matter. After waiting for a while, Black Sand God King finally woke up. His condition wasn't much different from Little Bright King Bodhisattva, with fear in his expression. The last to wake up was Erosion Earth God King. Being the lowest in realm, he fainted the fastest and woke up the latest. After all three were awake, Lin Mo finally started talking about the method of leaving. He pointed to the tombstone on the side and said, "This is the exit of the Nether Swamp. I have found a way to open it. Besides that, there is another way to leave. Every 100 years, a gap will appear in the sky, and you can also leave through the gap. But before the gap opens, you may face some dangers." At this time, Lin Mo pointed into the distance. Little Bright King Bodhisattva strained his eyes, and finally saw the monster Lin Mo was pointing at the end of his vision. There were several ape-like monsters wandering aimlessly. They didn't emit any aura, couldn't be sensed by the soul, and could only be discovered with the naked eye. Before they made a move, their strength couldn't be discerned. Little Bright King Bodhisattva asked, "How strong are they?" Lin Mo smiled slightly, "They should be about the same as Little Buddha, you can try it out." Little Bright King Bodhisattva thought for a moment and shook his head, "No need." But at that moment, one of the ape monsters suddenly raised its head and looked towards Little Bright King Bodhisattva. A fierce light flashed in its eyes, and Little Bright King Bodhisattva's face changed drastically. He felt that he was locked on by a powerful, deadly, and violent aura. This aura was very powerful and terrifying, not weaker than him at all. Then, a series of auras fell on him, and dozens of ape monsters rushed towards him. Chapter 1380. Taoist Friends, Farewell. Little Bright King Bodhisattva's expression changed drastically, and fear was revealed in his eyes. At this moment, he felt death, he felt the Buddha's call, and he deeply felt that he was going to return to the Western paradise. But he didn't want to go yet, he was still young, he had ideals, he still had a great future, and he might even become an existence like the Buddha in the future. At this moment, Little Bright King Bodhisattva only had one thought in his mind. Live, I must live, I must not die here. The Buddhist light began to shine brightly, and the Buddhist beads were already in his hand. Just as he was about to make a move, a hand rested on his shoulder, and Lin Mo's calm voice sounded, "Little Buddha doesn't need to act, they can't come over." Lin Mo's words were like heavenly music, instantly calming Little Bright King Bodhisattva down a bit. He suddenly realized that there was something wrong with his emotions just now, this was not the reaction he should have. He was affected by the ape monsters. The ape monsters had the ability to influence people's minds. Just then, the ape monsters had already rushed to the front. The distance was only 100 meters. Then, they seemed to have crashed into an invisible wall, and bounced back one after another. How fast they came, how fast they bounced back. Lin Mo continued, "Don't look at them, they will sense it and attack the observers." Little Bright King Bodhisattva had lingering fears, and forced himself to calm down. "Thank you, Taoist Lin." Lin Mo shook his head, "You're welcome, these guys are very powerful, those little god sovereigns who came in before should have died in their hands." Lin Mo couldn't tell Little Bright King Bodhisattva the images he saw, and directly put the label of murderer on these ape monsters. There were many ape monsters at the little god sovereign realm, enough to kill those little god sovereigns who had come in before. Little Bright King Bodhisattva's eyes flickered. "It seems that I can't get back the treasures of my Buddhist clan. Now, let alone searching for the treasures of the Buddhist clan, he wouldn't dare to leave the tombstone for 100 meters. Black Sand God King and Erosion Earth God King didn't say a word, but they both understood the situation just now. They had long since given up the idea of continuing to search, and just wanted to leave here quickly. Nothing was more important than their own lives. This place was too dangerous, not a place they should come to at all. So many little god sovereigns had come in before, but none of them escaped. Let alone the few of them. Lin Mo asked, "Little Buddha, do you plan to continue searching here, or leave with Lin?" Little Bright King Bodhisattva almost without thinking, "It seems that this treasure is not destined for this monk. What is not destined cannot be forced. This monk also plans to leave." Lin Mo then looked at Black Sand God King, "What about the two of you?" Black Sand God King also said, "We will also leave." Lin Mo smiled, "Okay, since that's the case, then I will open the passage." After saying that, he communicated with the tombstone and opened the passage to the Yellow Sand Desert. A dark portal opened from the bottom of the tombstone, and Lin Mo said, "This portal can lead to the Yellow Sand Desert. Lin will take the first step. Fellow Taoists, we will meet again in the future if we are destined." Little Bright King Bodhisattva announced a Buddha's name, "We will meet again if we are destined. We will meet again if we are destined." After saying that, Lin Mo stepped into the passage and was swallowed by the darkness. Immediately afterwards, Little Bright King Bodhisattva and the other two also rushed into the passage, fearing that the passage would disappear. From extreme cold to extreme heat, the sudden change in temperature made it difficult to adapt for a while. Lin Mo looked at the whistling sand and the 9 fireballs hanging high in the sky. Returning from the Nether Swamp, one would be randomly teleported to a certain location in the Yellow Sand Desert. Lin Mo realized that he was located in the outer region, and he determined his position through the 9 fireballs. To leave the Yellow Sand Desert, one could only pass through the stone tablet in the oasis. After identifying the direction, Lin Mo quickly headed to the nearest oasis. He found that he could also fly in the Yellow Sand Desert. The ability from the Nether Swamp was still effective here. It was not surprising, the Yellow Sand Desert actually belonged to the Nether Swamp. If he could fly in the Nether Swamp, he could naturally fly here as well. Being able to fly could avoid a lot of trouble. Just half an hour later, Lin Mo came to the edge of an oasis, found the stone tablet that could leave the Yellow Sand Desert, and activated it. A dark portal appeared, and the aura of the Great World permeated from the portal. As long as he entered here, he could leave the Yellow Sand Desert and return to the Great World. This journey, in Lin Mo's view, was really like a lifetime away. Taking a deep breath, just as he was about to step into it, Lin Mo suddenly stopped. His expression changed slightly, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. At that moment, he had a premonition and felt a fatal danger. As long as he went in, his life would be in danger. Returning to the Great World will be dangerous. Where does the danger come from? Lin Mo thought, and soon had the answer. It seems that the Demon Clan has set up a net, just waiting for me to go in. Senior Zhu should also be outside. How could he watch the Demon Clan do this? The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, it seems. Senior Zhu wants to be the oriole. Or rather, Senior Zhu just wants to watch the show, to see how I, the cicada, will resist. Alright, since that's the case, let Senior Zhu take a look. However, let me think, what would the demons' net look like? If they want to kill me, they must first trap me. Various guesses emerged in Lin Mo's mind. Lin Mo put himself in their shoes. If it were him to set up a net, how would he do it? With his understanding of the demon clan, which demons would they use, what level of power would they use? Soon, he had thought of several possibilities, and also found ways to deal with them. The Light Speed Lich, Starlight Lich, and Flame Star Lich appeared beside him at the same time. The Starlight Lich summoned the projection of the Lost Star River, and the Lost Star River slowly enveloped Lin Mo. 713 Then Lin Mo entered the portal. Along with a brief teleportation, Lin Mo left the Yellow Sand Desert and returned to the Great World. At the moment Lin Mo returned, in the starry sky outside the Yellow Sand Desert, the nightmare god Venerable suddenly opened his eyes. Prepare to attack. His order spread throughout the starry sky, and the demons who had been waiting for many days were immediately ready. The killing intent was boiling and spreading in the starry sky. The illusion demons began to create illusions, waiting for Lin Mo to appear and throw himself into the net. Zhu Qiwu's eyes lit up. The brat is finally coming out, let's see how you deal with this life and death crisis. In his eyes, facing this killing game, Lin Mo was bound to die without using his life-saving trump cards. He could take action to save people at any time, but he wanted to see what Lin Mo's reaction would be when facing a certain death situation. Whether he would fight back desperately, or directly use his trump card to ask for help. A person's reaction when facing a certain death situation can well reflect their character. This is also something that must be learned to become the strongest. A wave of spatial fluctuations came from the starry sky, and then Lin Mo's figure appeared in the starry sky. The starry sky was dreamlike. Lin Mo saw the stars, and found himself on a grassland. Ning Yi, Mu Shenxian, and Shu Han were sitting beside him. His head was resting on Mo Yun's soft thighs. The gentle wind blew, accompanied by the stars. The whole picture was extremely pleasant.